The plot develops from the moment when the young girl is comfortably seated on the bed, enjoying the pleasure of a special procedure. The protagonist made efforts to provide maximum pleasure to the lady through his intense actions. In fact, he performed a foot massage, taking a professional approach to the process. Perhaps the girl has been walking a lot lately, which has led to varicose veins in her legs. That's why the guy decided to help her restore the meridian system, and she had to endure a little. The massage session ended quickly, and the girl was impressed by the hero's skill, which was superior to other massage therapists, and next time she wanted to choose him. Saying goodbye to the girl, the guy expressed impatience to wait for her next visit. The elderly man approached the main character, Xiao Lu, and praised him for his excellent work, and now they have another satisfied client. Xiao Lu expressed gratitude to Uncle Zhang for the opportunity to work part-time at his spa during the summer holidays. At first, the uncle was afraid that a student like him might lower his standards by washing clients' feet, but it turned out that his professionalism exceeded even his uncle's expectations. At this time, the end of the working day came for our hero. He announced that it was time for him to return home and prepare dinner for Ling Ling, and in the meantime, his uncle asked him to also take good care of his little sister. Another old woman noticed that this guy is so good, sweet, and hardworking that all the clients love him, and at the same time, Uncle Zhang sympathized with the guy, considering that his parents passed away too early. And besides, he had a younger one waiting for him at home, sister, and he had to work hard. Upon arriving home, the brother and sister started eating dinner, and we learned that the hero's full name is Lu Dequan, and he is 19 years old and a freshman, and his sister's name is Lu Ling Ling, and she is 16 years old, and she is in the 10th grade. The younger sister noted that her brother's cooking was much tastier than in her school cafeteria, and in the meantime, the caring guy added that she could take another portion, since she was still growing during this period. 3 years ago, their parents died in an accident, and all the family's savings were used to compensate them to provide for their sister's education, and the hero is forced to work part-time wherever he could find an opportunity. The younger sister loved her brother the way she used to love her parents, because he always took care of her. Despite the difficulties of his job, when he saw his little sister smile, everything became better. But he knew that his parents, somewhere above, saw how he protected his family. After a while, the hero decided to take a shower, and someone behind him said that he had finally found Mr. Blooming Immortal. Lu Tequan instantly turned around to see who was speaking to him. What he saw frightened him, because an unknown figure was rapidly approaching. The hero screamed from fear and surprise because he did not know how to behave in this situation. The next moment, he found himself in some other place, as if in an unknown world. Opening his eyes, he could not understand where he was and how he got here. Suddenly, a girl named Xiao Lu appeared behind him, calling him Mr. Blooming Immortal, and she was glad that she seemed to have found him since it was incredibly difficult. The guy immediately began to deny that he was a blooming immortal, but the girl insisted that he was a Mr. Blooming Immortal who benefited women, and the proof was right in the sunflower bud behind him. The girl had to look through the bodies of 98,739 men to find him. The alarmed guy continued to ask her not to joke and asked where he was. But she was not joking, and she addressed the guy as Mr. Blooming Immortal, and his heart had recently begun to hurt, and this was happening more and more often. This statement shocked Xiao Lu, and he wanted to know how she guessed. This is because the next generation of flower immortals does not master the charming scripture of fortune until the age of 20, and in other words, he will die of a heart attack when the sunflower blooms behind him. The charming scripture of fortune is the supreme canonical text kept by the God of creation, in which lies a mysterious power, and over the course of millions of years, it will be transmitted to each generation of blooming immortals. It is he who is the descendant in this era, although he did not want to be called Mr. Blooming Immortal. He still wanted to know what would happen to his little sister if he died. And he wanted to find out from the girl what he should do to master the charming writing of fortune. According to the girl, everything should be incredibly simple. In that case, Xiaolu decided to let her enter his body. A moment later, the girl flashed several meters forward with lightning speed and seemed to enter, like an invisible entity, into the body of the main character. After that, she immediately asked Mr. Blooming Immortal not to worry. As she wished to help him win the hearts of beautiful women, a crushing lightning began coursing through his body, possessing him as he needed to blossom quickly. A few seconds later, the hero woke up, feeling the weight of his body. Ling Ling was sitting on him, massaging his heart, because she was worried about her brother and thought that he might die. With tears in her eyes, she watched as he gradually came to his senses. She was very happy because he had just passed out in the shower, and she was afraid that he would never wake up again. The caring sister asked Xiaolu to lie down and rest, as she would now bring him clothes. At this time, the hero did not understand why he lost consciousness in the shower. Gradually, he remembered moments from his vision of how an unknown girl entered him and that she wanted to help him win the hearts of beautiful women around the world. He was skeptical about this, believing that he had dreamed it all while he was unconscious, and believed that fatigue from work had recently made him lose consciousness. Looking at his sister, Xiaolu concluded that Ling Ling had grown up. Suddenly, his face filled with horror, and he saw something incredible. Above the girl, there was an unknown heart, and in it there was the inscription 100%. A girl appeared behind the hero, saying that after studying the charming scripture of fortune, the master received a favorable system. She promised to help Xiaolu see the level of women's favor towards him. Turning his head towards the unknown girl, he met her gaze and was afraid. Because of what he saw, he began to scream furiously, as if he had seen a ghost who wanted to steal his life. When the sister asked what happened, the hero replied that it was nothing, and he was just checking his voice. In a whisper, Lu Dequan wanted to find out from the unknown girl who she was and how she dared to enter his body, and the unknown girl was called Xiao Sun, and she was responsible for the safety of the charming scripture of fortune. She entered his body to help him study the charming description of fortune, and later he could receive flirting tips from Xiao Sun. Due to the vague wording, the hero did not quite understand what they wanted from him, and asked the mysterious girl to simply return to his body and prevent his younger sister from discovering Xiao Sun. Xiao Sun instantly transformed into a charming scripture of fortune and said that it was no problem for her. But Mr. Blooming Immortal must remember that if he cannot make the sunflower on his back bloom within a year, then even the gods will not be able to save him. Meanwhile, the caring sister found clean clothes for her brother. She asked her brother to change clothes, and she was about to go out. The guy was surprised to discover that she even brought him underwear. Confused, he now did not know how to look his little sister in the eyes. Sometime later, events continued at the city spa. Lu Tequan was thinking about the fact that Ling Ling La left home without even having breakfast, and he was sure that yesterday she saw something that she shouldn't have seen, and that's why she was angry with him. Xiao Sun suddenly appeared and explained to Mr. Blooming Immortal that Ling Ling was not angry with him, and the proof of this was that her favor towards him had not diminished. At the same time, the hero wanted to understand why his sister never had breakfast, and although this is a favorable system and it is certainly reliable, this question still bothered him. An irritated Xiao Sun explained that the favorable system is definitely accurate, and if he doesn't believe her, she will prove it in the future. Pointing her finger at one of the girls, the mysterious girl suggested testing the system on a woman. An unknown woman came in, and her favorability was only 50%. The benevolent Uncle Zhang immediately approached the lady and asked if she wanted to wash her feet. This was indeed the case, and she had been walking all morning, and now her legs were hurting, and in order to relax, she wanted to get an experienced worker who could help her avoid leg pain. A moment later, Uncle Zhang had already started calling Xiao Lu to serve the young lady. At the same time, the girl had already begun to wait for him in the room on an armchair. A hard-working guy was preparing warm water to wash the girl's feet. When she saw him, she immediately began to be indignant, believing that the boss was mocking her because he could not be the most experienced person in this spa. The good-natured man said that despite the fact that Xiao Lu is young, his skill has no equal here, and among the clients he served, no one remained dissatisfied. But of course, if she does not believe him, then he can understand the girl. After listening to the boss's instructions, the girl decided to entrust her legs to Xiao Lu, but at the same time insisted on honesty, given her status as a streamer. If his skill turns out to be unsatisfactory, she promised to express her opinion live. Immediately after that, she began broadcasting live, talking about her morning walks and her decision to visit the spa to relax. She also shared that boss said she would be served by a master, but she remained skeptical. In the near future, she will test his skills herself and tell everyone how true a professional he is. With an arrogant expression on her face, she continued to film the process, expecting that the master would provide services of insufficient quality. Xiao Sun noticed that the girl was looking down on her, and the Blooming Immortal would have to make her lose face. But at the same time, the hero understood that she was a client and could not let her feel awkward. The mysterious girl told the hero that he should transfer the innate life force into his hands when he washes her feet, and then something interesting will happen. A few seconds later, the girl had already exposed her legs, and she asked when the guy, being confused, would start washing her feet. Taking one of the legs, he assured that he would begin the process. Carefully lowering her into the basin, he politely asked if the water temperature was right for her. During the broadcast, everyone was interested in Xiao Lu's skill, but the girl considered him average, believing that the boss was exaggerating too much. The hero, realizing that Uncle Zhang valued his reputation, anxiously wondered how to satisfy the client's needs. It was at this moment that Xiao Sun advised him to channel his innate life force into his hands, but he didn't quite understand how to do it. Suddenly, his heart began to beat faster, as if it was filled with new, unprecedented energy. Feeling an influx of energy, Xiao Lu noticed that his hand had become much stronger, as if it was surrounded by many small lightning bolts. Touching the girl's legs caused an instant reaction, which the hero had been waiting for so long. The girl shuddered and began to scream quite quietly. The reaction that arose surprised the hero, and he wanted to clarify whether the girl was in pain. Blushing, the young lady asked to continue. At that time, she could not understand why the master had such pleasant hands, and she felt so pleased. To enhance the pleasure, she began to strain her legs to feel the massage as much as possible. The guy, not knowing about her experiences, asked her to relax because it was difficult for him to give a massage. While watching the girl, he noticed something unusual. After the effect of the massage on the girl, her feelings for Xiao Lu grew rapidly. After a few seconds, they reached their peak of 100%. The girl even dropped her phone from bliss. For the first time in her life, she felt the tension disappear from her body. Seeing this, Uncle Zhang was amazed and watched in amazement at Xiao Lu's skill as he performed the massage. Looking at her uncle, he simply said that he was washing her feet, since he had not done anything that could cause such colossal pleasure. After some time, Xiao Sun questioned Xiao Lu about the reasons why he did not share his number, claiming that the girl would like to have it and it could improve his rating. Everything was not so simple, and the hero had his own principles. He was not ready to choose the first one he came across, since he had certain standards in choosing a partner. To find out the hero's preferences, Xiao Sun began to find out his standards: age, height, figure, appearance, level of education, property, and however. Xiaolu did not understand why she was writing down all this data, since as he said, having said this, she will want to help him find a girl who meets the specified criteria. This was indeed the case, and Xiao Sun was even willing to provide him with suitable options. Having written down the parameters, she pressed the magic button and began to generate girls who met the specified criteria. Thus, several options for girls appeared that met the established criteria. Within 100 meters, there were 4 girls with more than 80 charm points. Xiao Sun decided to look at the profile of a girl named Ye Xiaoying. Her age was 21 years old, her height was 165 centimeters, and all parameters were indicated in the statistics. The mysterious lady was impressed that, with the exception of her charm, all the indicators were low, in which case it is worth redefining the parameters to find the target with the best characteristics, where the sum of the 5 parameters exceeds 400 points. As it turned out, within 100 meters, we managed to find a lady who met all the search criteria. Looking at the lady, the hero was truly amazed by what he saw. After all, the one they discovered was called Xia. She was 19 years old, and her height reached 169 centimeters. Seeing the hero's reaction, Xiao Sun immediately asked if he knew her, and it was true, and she was the student council president and recognized as a beauty by all the guys at his university. But he soon realized something else, and asked the girl to wait a second. After all, Xiao Sun just said that Xia is 100 meters away from Xiaolu. Literally a moment later, they noticed her in a passing car. When the girl turned her head, she did not see anyone standing on the street. Xiaolu hid fearfully because he couldn't help but hide because of what happened earlier. It all started a month ago when the hero finally started his summer holidays, and now he didn't have to worry about finding a job. He happily ran along the corridor, a girl walking next to him. Soon their gazes crossed, and both stared at each other in fear. Unfortunately, the guy accidentally bumped into Xie, and she fell. While he was trying to help her up, he accidentally touched her where he shouldn't have, causing himself embarrassment. The girl herself felt the same, lying on the ground, unable to utter a word. At that moment, he was afraid that he would not be able to clearly explain his actions, so he decided to run away. And in any case, he could not face her in order to avoid catastrophic consequences. Love depends on fate, not on fruitless dates, and so Xiaolu decided to handle his affairs on his own and asked Xiao Sun not to interfere. After some time, the hero headed home, going up to his floor. Suddenly, he noticed splashes of red paint on the door of his room. Entering the room, the guy found his younger sister in a panic and immediately realized that someone was teasing her. It turned out to be Zhang Hui, who again brought people demanding to repay the debt, and he warned that if the money was not returned within a month, he would take the house. This statement angered the hero, and he shouted that their house belonged only to them, and no one had the right to take it away. It turned out that Xiaolu's father borrowed money from a man during his lifetime, and starting with 50,000, in 3 years, the amount grew to 1 million due to high interest rates. While the hero was thinking that even a bank robbery brings in less money, his phone suddenly rang. The message said they were celebrating the birthdays of Heavenly Horse's staff, and the owner gave 28 gifts, including an Audi and 280,000 cash. With sadness, he realized that they all work in the service sector, but for some reason, some earn too much. Suddenly, Xiao Sun told the hero that Mr. Blooming Immortal could also be one of them. After all, he can both earn money and cultivate a charming description of fortune, which sounds great. This means that stress relief staff must make women happy. Realizing this, he realized that he could cope with his abilities. As he walked outside, he looked at his home and realized that no matter how much he had to pay, he had a responsibility to protect his family home. Sometime later, events unfolded in a nightclub. The main character stood at the bar, watching people in a nightclub having fun. There were many of them, and they were all sitting in pairs, enjoying drinks. He realized with sadness that all these people seemed very happy. The security guard knocked on the door of the boss's office and said that someone had filed a report. Seeing that the boss was a woman, Xiaolu was startled and stunned. The lady immediately asked the hero why he wanted to work here, and he replied that he needed money. She was pleased with the guy's honesty, because it's really easy to make money in this area, but you need the appropriate talent. That is why he had to take a test, and the woman also noticed that the hero had good facial features. The embarrassed guy was waiting for information about what test awaits him. In response, the woman whispered to him that she was sorry that he had no experience and was not very brave, but she wanted to know how he could open the hearts of clients and make them happy. As a stress reliever, the main thing is to have a special charm and the ability to make women happy. But the boss did not see this potential in Xiaolu and ordered him to leave. Hearing the refusal, the hero wondered if he had missed his only chance. After leaving the room, he heard shouts at Mrs. Li and requests not to pay attention to her, since Leon was not there now. The woman was outraged to the extreme when she learned that the person who served her was busy with another client. Having pulled out the money, she began to demand that the guy come to her. Throwing money, she shouted for Leon to come and drink alcohol with her. One of the guards approached the boss and said that he called Leon, but he did not answer. Mrs. Li was one of the elite group, a platinum client, and if she could not be appeased, it could greatly damage the club's reputation. That's why the boss ordered to find someone who would agree to have a drink with Mrs. Li and try to contact Leon again. At this time, Xiaolu sat down with the woman and decided to support her and dispel her melancholy. The woman was furious and shouted that only Leon had the right to drink with her. She even tried to hit the guy who sat next to her out of politeness. But suddenly, the woman's hand was grabbed. This was done by Xiaolu, who did not want anyone to beat others. The observers were amazed and did not understand why Xiaolu did not leave, because Mrs. Li was known for her cruelty, and now the boss had to personally intervene. Embarrassed, the woman was surprised that she stopped being angry after Xiaolu took her hand, and she felt pleased. At this time, the hero asked her not to be angry, arguing that everything could be resolved peacefully, and the woman agreed not to get angry and not to hit people. Seeing this, the boss was startled, and she couldn't believe that the unknown guy had calmed down Mrs. Li, and the woman admitted her mistake in underestimating this man. The missus asked the handsome boy how long he would hold her hand, assuming he was new, and she said she had not seen him before. The hero wanted to answer, but the boss interrupted him, noting that the missus had really good intuition. She also announced that Xiaolu was now a new employee and invited him to serve Mrs. Li. Meanwhile, another employee was serving the client. Suddenly, he noticed that his phone was ringing. Picking up the phone, he explained to the director that he had just been serving customers and had not paid attention to the phone, and he was going to arrive immediately. He was told that this was no longer necessary because the newbie had done a great job, and Mrs. Li was happy, and he had better explain to the boss why he wasn't answering his calls. After disconnecting the call, the guy was very angry because someone had appeared who dared to take his place, and he was going to give him a lesson. Sometime later, the director noticed that Xiaolu's performance exceeded all her expectations. Acting brazenly in front of the client, Xiaolu not only did not panic, but also quickly calmed down Mrs. Li. The woman eventually rescinded her threats. She congratulated the hero and announced that he was now officially an employee of Pegasus. The embarrassed guy bowed before his boss and expressed his gratitude. The boss gave him money and advised him to buy stylish clothes, emphasizing that the first meeting is important in this area. Without hesitation, Xiaolu accepted the money and promised to return it after receiving his first salary. The lady just smiled, saying that this was already payment for Mrs. Li's service, and he just needed to go home today and start work tomorrow. As Xiaolu walked out, the boss was thinking about how interesting this guy was, and perhaps he had a talent that she hadn't noticed. Returning home, the hero began to count the money. Just by drinking with a client, he made a ton of money, the equivalent of 2 months of working at a spa. The hero decided to spend 1,000 yuan on a suit, leaving the remaining 9,000 in savings. Because he was tired, he decided to go to bed early because he had to earn 1 million this month in order to save the house. At this time, events in Pegasus developed further. A cool sports car drove up to the center. From it came Leon, one of the best masters of Pegasus. The director is worried that if something like this happens again, she will have to explain it to her boss. Leon thought it was a small thing, since every customer is obedient, and he wanted to know more about the newcomer who replaced him in Mrs. Li's service. Seeing Xiaolu, Leon didn't understand why the boss was so pleased with him, because he looked completely normal. Knowing that Xiaolu had replaced him in Mrs. Li's service, Leon decided to recommend him when Miss Zhao Ying returned. The director realized that Leon was trying to get rid of her competitor by recommending Xiaolu to a woman, which could become a threat to newcomers. At this time, a young lady appeared at the Pegasus establishment. All the guys in the room were dressed in suits and politely greeted her, saying the phrase "welcome." Some of the staff were confused as the rookie killer had appeared. This person, known as Zhao Ying, enjoyed showing off newcomers and evaluating each of them, and later the results of her evaluations were made public. And after that, those who received low scores were shunned, and thus she was called the rookie killer. Walking past all the workers, the lady noticed the appearance of a new guy, and her choice fell on him. While spending time together, she hinted that it wasn't fun to just drink and suggested they go out and play, but the guy was against it because he didn't like the idea of playing outside and preferred to have fun indoors. The impudent lady was indignant at why a newbie like him would refuse to satisfy the client's request and pretend to be a good-natured person. However, since Lady Zhao wanted to play, he naturally decided to comply with her request. Together, they headed to the hotel room. The alarmed hero realized that he had come here after all, and could not believe that they were going to do this right now. Suddenly, Xiaosun appeared, who forgot to tell the Blooming Immortal something important. Before the sunflower on his back blooms, he must preserve his virginity. And if this does not happen, it will explode. Hearing the hero's horror, he did not know what to do in this situation. Because of this, he started yelling at Xiao Sun because she didn't tell him about it earlier. But the girl had an argument. He didn't ask himself. At the same time, the door swung open. The client wanted to know why Xiaolu was still wearing clothes. Thinking over the plan, the hero understood that the only way out was to escape. And even if he was fired from his job for this, it was still better than dying in this way. Xiao Sun turned to the master and said that he could increase her level of favor, and then she would not embarrass him. And this was true because the previous girl was also unhappy with him, but after filling out the favor blog, she even actively wanted to get his phone number, and maybe he could use this trick to solve the problem. All this time, the girl watched the hero and asked what he was whispering there and why he still hadn't undressed. The friendly guy said that first he would like to try his massage skills, then he was sure that she would like it, and the girl was amazed that the hero turned out to be an experienced massage therapist. He immediately felt like he learned this at a spa, and all his clients were happy. The girl nevertheless agreed to the massage, and the hero understood that success or failure depended on this. He decided to massage her shoulders first, using his masterful skills. The lady immediately felt something unusual. It is as if a dying man who lacks water in the desert suddenly takes a sip of water, experiencing incredible happiness. Since the lady had tense shoulders from sitting for a long time, Xiaolu tried to relieve the tension with his masterful movements, and after his massage, she felt much more comfortable. The level of favorability increased with every second. The girl had the feeling that his hands had magic, and no man had ever given her such feelings, and she felt more than 100 times more comfortable. And finally, the favorability level reached 100%. The blushing lady was so happy that it seemed to her as if every cell of her body was coming to life, as if her life force was returning. Due to Xiaolu pressing on the girl's sleepy acupuncture points, she probably fell asleep. Since he had done all he could, she just had to accept her fate. Sometime later, events developed at Shuangde University. Several guys were discussing the opening ceremony of the new school year and were planning to put a bottle of water on the roof of the car to see if this trick would work. And they had used it 100 times already, and this time they would definitely get lucky. This really happened. A girl came up and said that she saw the guys put a bottle of water on the car. The guy in love watched the girl and offered to join them, but she insisted that leaving a bottle of water on the roof was bad. The guy blossomed and believed that there were not enough bottles for such a beautiful girl like her, and asked her to supply as many as she considered necessary, and he would not mind. A little embarrassed, the girl smiled sweetly and said that if he thinks so, then that's good. Her words were followed by a blow to the roof of the car. There was a huge number of unknown objects on the roof, which made the car unable to move. The guys got angry and were ready to take revenge on the girl for what she did to the car. She was a strong girl, and she thought the guys who hit on her were crazy because they couldn't stand up to her. She ordered her guard to deal with these guys and their broken car, and then leave. As long as she was the student council president, she would absolutely not allow anything that could harm the university. And now she was dealing with the boys at the school gates. The next step was the campus. With annoyance, she also realized that she had previously been attacked by a guy on the last day of the previous semester. Sometime later, the main character approached the door of the student council. This was the last place he wanted to be. Upon entering the door, the teacher announced that the school wants to hold sports activities to welcome the freshmen, and Xiaolu must provide a list of student council members since they received a scholarship last semester and are in charge of the group's sports activities. He seemed to be able to overcome this difficulty on his own. Looking through the door window, he hoped that his luck would not fail and the girl would not be nearby. Opening the door, he found that there was no one in the room, and this made him very happy. Approaching the table, he began looking for the student council list. Yawning, the guy realized that he hadn't slept well last night and should get a good rest. Suddenly, someone started opening the door and said that the meeting with the president was over. Some girl was going back to the office to sort out the meetings. Hearing this, the guy immediately realized that the same girl had returned, and if he went out, he would inevitably run into her, and he realized that he did not want to run into her again. Hastily looking around, he realized that if she recognized him, she would remember past events, and it was obvious that he would not be able to escape. While running away, he thought about hiding and going inside first. Once inside, he noticed another student council room, and this one was truly luxurious. Curious, the hero approached the table and began to examine what was lying on it. There was a notepad on the table that said tasks needed to be completed: welcoming the freshmen, preparing for their sporting events, recruiting new student council members, creating a student league, and organizing a mid-autumn party. It was the same notebook with the tasks of the student council, and it seems that this room belongs to that same girl. Outside the door, someone started talking about notifying the head of the department about the upcoming meeting. And at that time, Xiaolu heard this and realized that he needed to find a secluded place to hide and not let her discover him. Literally, a moment later, the door opened and a girl entered. Entering the office, she found her diary on the floor. Leaning after him, she didn't quite understand how he could have ended up there. And she immediately began to read the contents to make sure that nothing had changed in her notes. Hiding, The hero waited until the girl finished reading the book and then left. Slowly approaching the door, the girl walked leisurely. Peering through the crack in the closet, the hero thought, "It seems she is getting ready to leave." It turned out that she had only locked the door. This was because it was too hot today and she needed to change clothes due to sweat. With horror, Xiaolu realized that this seemed to be the end, and he had no excuse if she discovered him. The girl opened the closet to get clothes, and the guy was shaking, trying to hide. Slowly, she took her things out of the closet. Then she closed it, and the hero already thought that he had not been discovered. Suddenly, she noticed that the outfit was bought last year and is considered old-fashioned, and she is going to choose another one. A second later, she opened the door, behind which was the hero himself. The guy was holding a beautiful dress in his hands and wondering how he could block the girl so that she couldn't do anything. The stunned lady watched as some guy stood in her closet and peeked. There was a scream, and the hero quickly reacted by covering her mouth, explaining that it was a misunderstanding and not at all what she thought. Unfortunately, the girl lost her balance and began to fall backwards. She fell, and Xiaolu was behind her, outside the door. Someone from the president's office asked if everything was okay. Out of shock, the girl immediately began to push away the intruder. In fear and horror, she screamed, trying to cover her hands so that he could not see. To prevent this, she tried to reach the door handle to tell security what happened. To avoid this, the hero quickly ran up from behind and covered her mouth with his hand. He tried to explain to her that he was not a thief or a pervert, it was just a misunderstanding, and he wanted to explain everything to her. Touching the girl's stomach, he used his magical abilities. The stunned young woman sensed this, and her abilities began to manifest. He fell to his knees, and the girl did not understand why pressing in a certain place caused a pleasant numbness and softness. Xiaolu, not understanding what was happening, tried to find out what happened to the girl. The lady showed signs of embarrassment, and she wanted to understand what the hero had done to her. Xiao Sun suddenly appeared, telling the master that he must not let the girl go, otherwise he would be considered a criminal if she screamed. They started knocking on the door, asking what happened to the president and what was happening inside the room. The hero sought to find out how to solve the problem, and Xiao Sun advised increasing the girl's favor to 100%. Xiao Lu, covering the girl's mouth, apologized and said that he was sorry for what happened. Intensifying the pace of increasing favor using his magical abilities, he continued to act. The hero's hands created a feeling of warmth in the girl, causing incredible emotions in her. Suddenly, the president fell to the floor, and the hero realized that the favor had been brought to 100%. They kept knocking on the door, and the guy knew that if he was seen, his life would be marked as a pervert. Unexpectedly, the girl answered the man behind the door that what had happened should not be taken to heart, since she simply saw a mouse, which had now run away. The stunned guy did not understand why the president was helping him. It turned out that it was not a question of help, but that she did not want to be seen in such an outfit. The president began to get dressed, and the hero tried to explain himself, saying that he had come to hand over a list of participants in sporting events. The embarrassed girl asked him to keep the incident a secret. With relief, the hero assured the girl that he would not tell anyone. At the time, the president was on guard, following her mother's advice about not trusting men, and she wanted to do something unusual. After 5 minutes, she announced to the students that Xiao Lu was now a member of the student council and would temporarily take over as her assistant. Colleagues joyfully applauded because a new face appeared in their team. The hero realized that now he would not have freedom either at night or during the day. Sometime later, events developed in the center of Pegasus. One of the workers asked the guy how yesterday went with the new killer, whether she was satisfied, and the modest hero replied that perhaps she was. A colleague was happy for him, because if she is not happy with the service, she will come back to speak up, and this can affect the reputation. And one day someone received a 30 rating from her and never appeared in the industry again. With apprehension, the hero realized that last night he had left her house while she was sleeping and did not know whether she would complain about him. Suddenly, the same lady came, and they started asking her if she was happy with the newcomer. The impudent Leon watched closely what was happening and thought about how he dared to take away his client, and today he will make sure that the hero leaves this industry. The manager suggested that Xiaolu apologize to the lady in advance for possible misunderstandings in the service. It turned out that the lady wanted to rate Xiaolu's service 100 points because it was simply great. Everyone who heard about this could not understand how this was possible. Even Leon only got 95 points when he first started working here, and this newcomer truly surpassed Leon. Now the lady only wanted to choose Xiaolu when she came here. Leon continued to watch, and anger overwhelmed him, and he could not accept it. He himself crushed the glass, and the lady, noticing this, wanted to help him, since his hand was hurt. Smiling, the hero told her that he was fine, and she didn't need to worry. At the same time, he realized that Pegasus's trump card was he, Leon, and no one should take this position away from him. Sometime later, events unfolded in the city at night. The girls in Pegasus were discussing the newcomer, who served even better than Leon, not paying attention to his appearance, and wanted to quickly evaluate his service. Just a few minutes later, Xiaolu was already serving one of the clients. The girl was lying on the bed, waiting for an attractive guy to start servicing her. He reached out with his hands to her back to use his magical abilities. By touching the girl's shoulder, the guy evoked in her incredibly pleasant feelings that were rumored. The guy didn't know how Zhao Ying spread these rumors among people, but after that day, there was no end to the number of customers. After a magical massage from Xiaolu, the girls literally fought for the opportunity to attend his session. While other employees were indignant, believing that this was not a massage parlor and one person could not serve everyone, the bosses turned a blind eye to this. Given his financial success, one of the guys even heard that his profits surpassed Leon's. Suddenly, Leon walked straight past the gossipers. The guys, seeing him, immediately began to bow, showing deep respect for the experienced worker. The girl who was next to the indignant guy asked him not to be angry, and today she would try her best to help him and not let others get around. Looking her straight in the eyes, the guy said that she did not need to do this, but she could provide him with one favor, and the embarrassed girl was ready to do anything to please Leon. As events unfolded the next evening, Leon informed Xiaolu that he would be serving Miss Mary today. This surprised the other workers, since Mary had never chosen other than Leon, and they thought that the fight for first place was over and Leon had lost. The aloof girl watched the hero. She had only 20% favor towards him. The good hero asked Miss if she would allow him to pour some wine. The girl said that she doesn't understand why some women choose him when Leon is much better, and she suggested switching with Leon. The embarrassed girl refused the offer, saying that she did not want to change but only wanted to say a few words, and she believed that the hero did not have a professional spirit. She chose him this time to see how brilliant his massage techniques were and why others rejected Leon. With anticipation, the woman knew they had to find a suitable location. The good-natured guy apologized and said that now he doesn't work outside the center, and going out is dangerous, and his profits were good, and now he can give up working outside. Sighing heavily, the girl forgot that he was now a celebrity in the center and had the right to be arrogant, and she thought that if his massage satisfied her, she would pay him 100,000 yuan. Because of the amount, after a while, the couple found themselves at the entrance of the Lantian Hotel. Meanwhile, Leon was watching them and calling someone. At this time, events were unfolding in a dark gateway. A man with a scar beat another man and threatened to cut off his hands if he did not give up the remaining money. Suddenly, the intimidating man received a call. Suspecting nothing, he answered the call and asked who was calling. The voice on the phone warned that Mary was now his woman, and if he bothered her again, he would face a fate that even his mother would not know. The angry man began screaming, demanding to know who was calling, threatening to beat him, then demanded to know the address. It turned out that it was Leon, who said that he was now at the Lantian Hotel with Mary, and invited the man. The treacherous guy made himself laugh, knowing that Xiao Lu would frame Leon. Meanwhile, the couple had already entered the hotel room, and the hero asked if the girl wanted a massage right now. The girl asked him to take his time and offered him a glass of wine. Remembering Leon's words, she said that when he falls asleep, she needs to take off his clothes and throw him out into the street so that he can disgrace himself. They started drinking wine, and the girl decided that she would take revenge on him for insulting Leon. After some time, the girl found herself on the bed and invited the hero to join, and if he satisfied her, then the money was his. Xiao Lu knew that the girl would be happy if he used his powers. After one touch, the girl made strange sounds. Her body began to tremble, and she felt strange. It turned out that the hero didn't even touch her, and he didn't understand what happened, and Xiao Sun explained that someone had poisoned the wine. Xiao Sun then laughed, saying that the hero could not poison such wine because of his cultivated, charming fortune scripture. As long as the poison is not dissolved, it will not affect Xiao Lu, as his energy is drawn from the charming scripture of fortune, which is a type of life energy, and the source of life is water. Thus, his energy attribute is water. His massage brings pleasure due to his ability to interact with the circulatory system of people, which makes them satisfied, and in addition, he uses his life energy to neutralize the poison that they may have drunk. Despite Xiao Lu's previous opinion about charm fortune-telling as an unfair cultivation method, it turned out to be something amazing, and Xiao Sun was amazed, not understanding how charm fortune-telling could be considered an unfair method. The hero instantly realized that now was not the time for arguments, and he must rush to the aid of the miss. First of all, he needed to rid Miss of the poison in her body, but he also did not know who could be her poisoner. It was clear from the knocking on the door that someone was demanding attention. The man threatened to cut up the guy she was cheating with and expressed displeasure at her cheating behind his back. Looking through the peephole, the heroes discovered the bandits, realizing that someone was trying to frame them, and Zhang Hui was among the bandits. It turned out that Mary was Zhang Hui's wife, and the hero had debts to him, and the hero's fate seemed uncertain, and the bandits threatened to break down the door. It was dangerous to stay in the room, and the hero had no choice but to get out through the balcony. Xiao Sun warned the hero against jumping, pointing out the danger. Thanks to his water power, the hero decided to use his skills. The mysterious girl told him that he would not be able to go down, even using water. And then the guy realized that ice could help him. Using his abilities, he created an icy path and easily descended from the balcony. Below, he found Leon's car and realized that it was his organization. Xiao Lu was going to repay his debt. Ice covered part of Leon's car, causing confusion. Looking down, he was amazed to see Xiao Lu walking down the ice. To take revenge, the hero hit the villain hard in the face. The bandits on the balcony noticed the hero running away, but he was not going to wait. The bandits discovered Leon, and the main one realized that this brat was calling him. The worried guy tried to justify himself, but the bandit knew that Leon was playing a joke on him. It was for this reason that the bandit was going to ruin Leon's handsome face so that he could no longer flirt with girls. Meanwhile, events developed in the student council. All the council members worked hard, and the preparations were completed, and the president invited everyone to karaoke. The girl, embarrassed, approached one of the guys to find out where Xiao Lu was, and the guy replied that he was busy in the evening and had gone home. In response, The girl suggested that they ignore him and have fun together. And meanwhile, she was thinking about the fact that Xiaolu even asked the other person to say that he was leaving, and she began to think how scary he was. She recalled that the hero was quite cocky last time, but for some reason he still kept his distance, and she gave him many chances. Perhaps he has a girlfriend that he is going on a date with today, and thinking about it, she thought that Xiaolu did a great job and decided to take revenge on him. Meanwhile, events developed in Pegasus, where the hero brought some document to the boss. The woman couldn't understand why he wanted to quit, as if he wasn't being paid enough. All because he came here to earn money and pay off his debt, which has now been paid off. The boss saw the report. He earned more than $1 million in a month, and she admitted that she had never seen such an effective employee. After tearing up her resignation letter, the girl said that Xiaolu was an excellent employee, and she couldn't let him leave. Without hesitation, the hero said that even if she tore up his statement, it would not change his decision. She showed him the contract that he signed when he was hired, and it clearly states that he undertakes to work here for a year, and upon termination of the contract, he will have to compensate for 3 months of income. Thus, if he pays her $3 million, she will let him leave. After which she asked what he chooses, to stay and work or to pay for his freedom, and she wanted the hero to be devoted to her and become her financial source for the whole year. Then the hero said that he would stay here a little longer until he earned enough to compensate. Leaving the office, the woman asked him to wait. She felt uncomfortable with him and asked him to give her a massage. Then, the hero asked permission to go for a bottle of wine, but this turned out to be unnecessary since rumors about his incredible skills reached her a long time ago. At that moment, the hero realized that this was a great opportunity, and he did not expect that the woman would give him such a chance. And perhaps if he increased her favor, she would not have to demand compensation. Touching the boss's back, he immediately used his magical abilities. Unfortunately, the level of favorability did not increase, and the woman did not respond, and the level of favorability remained at 50%. With her eyes closed, the boss did not make any sounds, as if she had fallen asleep. Taking advantage of the fact that she fell asleep, the hero put his jacket on her so that she would not freeze. Then the woman invited him to go outside for a while. At this time, the student council president was saying goodbye to her subordinates. Then she asked the butler if the students had parties at the Pegasus Club, and he looked unusual. That's when the butler told her everything. With horror, the girl realized that this place was different from her ideas. The girl shouted into the car, asking her uncle to get away from there as far as possible. Meanwhile, the hero and the boss were leaving the club. The girl was stunned by what she saw, and she did not understand why he was coming out of there and who was next to him, and perhaps it was his girlfriend, but she looked too old. A moment later, she ordered the butler to stop and began to get out of the car. The car with the boss and Xiaolu has already left. The butler wanted to know what happened to the young lady, and she was ordered to immediately find out about the girl next to Xiaolu, as much as possible, to prevent the university's reputation from being ruined. While the hero wanted to understand where they were going, the boss offered him to earn a fine for breaking the contract, and that is why she wanted to introduce him to the client and find out why the client did not show up to the club himself. Moving around the city, the boss assured him that everything would become clear when they arrived. Meanwhile, they arrived at Qingshan Mental Hospital. It turned out that the client was not a doctor or a nurse, and she was a patient. The hero hinted to the boss that this was wrong. They could not work here without the permission of the guardian. The patient turned out to be the boss's younger sister, and she is her guardian. Upon entering the psychiatric hospital, they were greeted by a nurse who asked if Miss had come to visit her sister. As before, the woman did not communicate with anyone and showed aggression towards men. As long as she does not see the men, she acts calmly, and the miss asks the nurse to continue her work while they spend a little time here and leave. Xiaolu looked at the boss and said that he was not a doctor, and her sister should be treated by doctors. Unfortunately, during the 5 years that her sister spent in this place, her condition did not improve. And Xiaolu knew that even if the doctors could not help, the girl had brought him here in vain. Ever since her sister became like this, the girl has not slept well. And after Xiaolu's massage, she felt more comfortable and fell asleep, and she hopes that he can help her sister sleep better, and that will be enough. The hero decided to do his best, but the nurse said that the girl becomes mad at the sight of men, and then the lady suggested that standing in front of him would distract her attention, and the hero should just do his job. Miss entered the room and introduced herself to her sister named Tin Tin, saying that she had come to visit her. Approaching the girl, the miss said that she had nothing to be afraid of. The doctors would cure her, and she needed to be strong and not give up. The caring sister knelt in front of Ting Ting, and Xiaolu came closer. Suddenly, the girl noticed something, and a blur appeared in her eyes. The boss immediately hugged her and told her that she was here to protect her. My sister started biting to protect herself. The hero approached and began to use his magical abilities on the crazy girl. After using her abilities, the lady began to scream furiously, being consumed by dark energy. Xiaosun explained that this is the dark energy of the succubi. Succubi are demonic creatures that feed on the life force of humans, and they are the sworn enemies of the flower family. Meanwhile, events unfolded in the nightclub. Lei An came to an unknown girl who accused his colleague not only of robbing her client, but also of making him like this. The embittered guy wanted the lady to heal his face because he intended to take revenge. She instantly went to him to treat his wound. Immediately afterwards, they kissed passionately. After this terrible kiss, Leon fell to the floor unconscious. Leaving the nightclub, the girl thought about what awaits the losers who turn to her, and Leon's revenge seemed like a whole enterprise to her. At the same time, she couldn't understand how someone as excellent as Leon could be missed when there was someone more popular. Xiaosun again asked the master to speed up, as long-term exposure to the power of the succubi could lead to it taking over him like this girl. It was then that the hero decided to use his magical abilities with even greater power and intensity. But the dark energy turned out to be too strong, and knowing that it could not take possession of Xiaolu, it returned to the girl's body. The worried sister wanted to find out from Xiaolu what happened to her sister, but it turned out that she just fell asleep. The injury on Xiaolu's shoulder was insignificant compared to what Ting Ting was going through. Then Xiaosun asked the girl to find out what happened to her sister. All this happened because of one man. 5 years ago, when Tintin was studying at university, she said that she liked someone, and the girl was happy for her. But she soon disappeared, and despite all the efforts of friends and police, she was nowhere to be found. 6 months later, police found more than 10 unconscious girls, including Tintin, in an abandoned house. Xiaolu wanted to know who the man was, but the woman said that she had never seen his photo. But before Ting Ting disappeared, she updated her status on social media. The status said that she was happy next to her boyfriend. This whole story was strange because in the photograph the girl was alone, and Miss had been trying all these years to unravel the mystery of this man who may have harmed her sister, and she wanted to destroy him. After a few tens of minutes, they almost reached Xiaolu's house. The guy told the girl that they were at his house. Then she asked him to wait. She suddenly kissed him as a thank you for his good work, thanks to which Tin Tin could have a good rest this evening. Sister Xiaolu watched what was happening and, scared, dropped her books. As he left the car, Xiaolu was wondering whether the boss's sister would be able to cope with what had happened. Xiao Sun explained that there was a lot of dark energy and he needed to improve his cultivation to deal with it. Upon learning of this, Xiaolu thought about whether he should take Xiaobao's example. At this time, the girl was watching everything and did not understand what was happening and what it meant to follow the example of Xiaobao. Together with her sister, they sat down to eat, and she asked her brother why he came so late, as if he was walking with a girl, and he replied that he did not have time to communicate with girls. The sister, embarrassed, wanted to know if he had worked last night. Xiaolu confirmed that he worked to provide for his family. From this thought, the younger sister realized that he could work with other girls or earn money in other ways. Angry, she slammed her hand on the table. At this time, the heroes did not understand why the sister suddenly got angry. Sitting on her bed, she decided that she couldn't allow her older brother to continue working in this industry, and she needed to stop him. To unwind, Xiaolu decided to go outside and take a walk. Suddenly, a car drove up to him. It was the same girl who had offered him a ride earlier and asked where he was going and if he needed a ride. Confused, the guy replied that he didn't need to. He could get to work by bus. The girl remarked that he was probably the club's trump card, and why shouldn't he take advantage of this opportunity? Because if the clients recognized him, he would be more appreciated. University regulations prohibit working in bars and clubs, and such actions can damage the reputation of the school. Unless the hero has a compelling reason to work there, the girl is going to report it. Suddenly, the younger sister ran up, urging the girl not to hurt her brother, and she claims that love cannot be bought with money, and her brother does not have feelings for the girl. And she also tells her brother that despite the financial difficulties of the family, there is no need to make him unhappy because of money. Xiaolu was even more confused, not understanding what happened to Ling Ling. The hero explained the situation to the head, noting that his sister was too young and naive to attract attention. Turning to his younger sister, he wanted to understand what she was talking about, because she should have gone home after school and done household chores. Ling Ling was outraged, not wanting her brother to think of her as a child, and she saw what he did to the girl last night. But Xiaolu made excuses, claiming that her sister misunderstood what was happening. She also knew that her brother worked hard to support the family, and last night he served one girl and today another, and this caused the outrage of the sister, who considered such actions inappropriate. And while the girl wanted to understand what was meant by service, another girl. The crowd of those gathered expressed their dissatisfaction with the fact that the young man was engaged in such behavior as livestock, considering such behavior unacceptable for modern youth. The butler suggested that they solve the problem in the car, since there were too many people around and the situation could be misunderstood, and the girl agreed. At high speed, they headed somewhere. Events developed in the Pegasus Club. The same girl who healed Leon and got rid of his scar came to the club. It turned out to be the famous supermodel Gan Wei, and no one could believe that she came to relax at their club, and everyone was delighted and hoped that she would choose them. The manager approached the girl to find out who she should contact. Gan Wei said that she heard about a master named Xiaolu, who is considered the best in his field. Unfortunately, Xiaolu was late, and if the girl didn't mind, the manager offered to find a replacement for him. Then, Gan Wei ordered everyone to come here to evaluate all the services of the club. She was ready to pay for all services, but the manager said that they could not fulfill her request because of other visitors. The girls watched her in surprise, amazed that the supermodel wanted to pay for everything, as if she believed that she had enough money. Then Gan Wei decided to use her secret insect puppet created by dark energy, which could control the minds of others. Unnoticed, an insect bit one of the girls in the club. Horrified, the girls did not understand why their mouths were dirty, and they had to shut them up, and then they began to hit their cheeks with their hands. The manager came over to find out what happened to the girls. Suddenly, he was also bitten by the same insect, He told Ganwei Wei that he could arrange an all-inclusive service for her. Before starting the main course, she was offered to try several appetizers. Meanwhile, Ling Ling apologized and didn't know that the girl was the student council president and thought that she wanted her brother to serve her. But everything was in order, and the girl did not blame her, believing that her older brother was to blame for such an unworthy job. Out of dissatisfaction, the president of the student club even stepped on the hero's foot. Worried, he continued to sit between the two girls, listening to their conversation. The younger sister said that her brother was doing this to pay off his parents' debts, and the man warned that if they didn't pay, he would take their house. And Xiaolu reassured his sister, saying that he had already paid off the debts, and this place would always be theirs home. This news brought Ling Ling great relief, and she thought that now brother would not continue this job and should quit as soon as possible. And however, Xiaolu admitted that he told his boss last night that he wanted to leave, but signed a 1-year contract, and if he leaves, he will have to pay damages under the contract. Then the sister asked how much compensation would be. Rubbing the back of his head, the hero admitted that it was only 3 million yuan. The sister was amazed by what she heard, and she could not believe that the hero would have to pay such a large amount. And the president of the student club said that she receives about the same amount of pocket money per month and suggested that they not worry, since she was ready to pay Xiaolu. The guy felt awkward and said that he could not accept her money, and the girl said that she was not going to give him the money just like that. It was an investment in the future, because he would work for her. The younger sister also thought that working with Sister Shi was better than staying in her current job and advised her brother to agree. Xiaolu asked what exactly he had to do so as not to take risks and act blindly. Then the girl said that she did not need him to climb a mountain or dive into the ocean, and he would just need to make tea, bring water, and possibly give a massage. She did not say that he was obliged to accept her money, but simply asked if he agreed, and she thought that perhaps he did not want to quit. The guy was inspired and was ready to work hard to repay the girl. The lady was very happy that the guy she liked agreed, although she felt embarrassed. Immediately after this, the rich lady asked her uncle to go towards the Pegasus Club, and they instantly went there. A few minutes later, events unfolded near the Pegasus Club. The younger sister found it hard to believe that this was the place where her brother worked, and she wanted to go inside and look around. Smiling, the guy said that there was nothing to see here, and now he needed to talk to the boss, and he would be back as soon as he was finished. The girls decided to wait for him outside while he resolved the issue with his boss. Entering the club, Xiaolu could not understand why it was so empty and no one greeted him. Due to the lack of visitors, the guy thought that everyone was given leave on the same day, and then he met the director. The hero, looking into the director's eyes, asked where the rest of the workers were. The director, with a blank look, replied that everyone was working in the all-inclusive room, and he should hurry there as the client was waiting for him. The hero was against this because he would not be able to serve customers and came to talk to the boss. The director, completely emotionless, repeated that the client was still waiting for him and he should hurry up and serve her. Xiao Sun suddenly appeared, announcing that something was wrong, and that person was under the influence of the succubus insect puppet. His mind was being controlled by someone else. Hearing this, the guy was amazed, and after all, his boss's sister also became a victim of a succubus, and Xiao Sun admitted that she did not fully understand the situation, since there are many succubi in the world, and they all have different abilities. And for example, this succubus used an insect, indicating its ability to control, and the maximum distance the insect could be from its host was 50 meters, which meant that the succubus was somewhere nearby. Xiaolu guessed that he was probably in the all-inclusive room right now and asked what he should do in such a situation. And Xiao Sun guessed that the succubus didn't know who he was yet, And if that was the case, then she wouldn't using a puppet in front of him might be their chance to make the first move. Full of determination, the guy, having heard Xiao Sun's words, realized that he needed to fight the succubus, although he had never studied martial arts. Smiling, Xiao Sun said that he underestimates himself, and during cultivation, his strength, reaction, and agility become better, exceeding the abilities of an ordinary person. And in addition, his charm is a threat to all succubi, and they will definitely win. A moment later, the guards surrounded the guy and tried to take him to the all-inclusive room. Sighing heavily, the hero did not lose hope because he had no other choice, and he hoped that Xiao Sun's words were true. The guards brought Xiao Lu and reported that the master had arrived. While many workers took care of Gan Wei Wei, giving her various treatments such as massage of her legs, back, and arms. Seeing the chief foreman, the girl ordered all the workers to leave and leave them alone. The subordinates bowed to the girl and immediately left the room. The hero did not know at all how to react and watched in amazement what was happening. The girl asked the guy why he stood there rooted to the spot and he should have approached, since she tried all the services of this place precisely because of him. Confused, the guy didn't know what to do, but Xiao Sun gave him a hint and told him to do everything as usual, and as soon as the succubus was distracted, they would take the chance and attack. Sitting down next to the girl, Xiao Lu began to wonder if she was a famous model, because she looked incredible, and he hoped that she would forgive him for saying such things, since he had no other description. Gan Wei Wei was not surprised that he was able to impress Leon and become an attribute of this establishment, and he has such a sweet tongue that no girl can resist. First of all, she was going to drink some wine. The glass contained a black, bloody worm, capable of saturating human blood with dark energy, which succubi love very much, and apparently the succubus wanted to turn the hero into the main dish. In surprise, the girl asked why the guy didn't drink wine, as if he was afraid that something had been mixed into it. Xiao Sun at the same time told the hero that ordinary people do not see such things, and if he does not drink the wine now, then Gan Wei Wei will begin to suspect him. While two girls were waiting for him on the street and wondered why he had not appeared for so long. Ling Ling instantly speculated that perhaps he was not allowed to quit and was being held inside. The chairman decided that she should stay with her younger sister to find out what the Pegasus Club is like, and you can enter it, but you cannot leave it. At the same moment, the hero began to drink the wine offered by Gan Wei Wei. Without deciding to take a sip, he announced that he could not do it, apologizing. This answer did not satisfy the girl, and she wanted to know why. Xiao Lu decided to argue that his main task is massage, and alcohol can negatively affect the quality of his work, and he does not consider himself ideal in this matter, so he suggested starting with a massage and then drinking. He wasn't too sure that this lie would convince her, and at worst, he would have to disobey. The enthusiastic girl was confused, but asked him not to forget to have a drink with her as soon as he finished the massage. She also asked him to remember to put in effort while working and not to be afraid of causing pain because she loves strong men. The mysterious girl realized that this was the hero's chance to take advantage of the succubus's inattention and use his powers to defeat her. The trusting succubus lay down on the bed, waiting for the hero to begin the massage. Suddenly, in the reflection of the glass, she noticed how the hero used his magical abilities, approaching from behind. Immediately after that, she began to turn around to prevent Xiao Lu from getting even closer. Getting to her feet, the girl wanted to see who this guy really was. Xiao Sun suddenly appeared, shouting for the succubus to open her eyes and see that this gentleman was an honorable, blooming immortal, wise, kind, and gallant. The Blossom Immortal family was extremely hostile towards the succubi, and Gan Wei Wei admitted that she was too careless. To protect herself, the girl abruptly turned the table over, hiding behind it. She then abruptly ran away, since succubi who specialize in control cannot fight effectively in close combat, and she should not have given him the opportunity to leave. Running to the door, she turned around to see if the guy was chasing her. At the same moment, the hero managed to touch the intruder using his magical powers. After a single touch, the succubus fell to the ground, becoming helpless. This blow seriously injured Gan Wei Wei, another one, and she would have died. The main character was preparing to strike the next blow in order to completely defeat the impudent succubus. Suddenly, the head of the student council appeared, wondering what the guy was doing and why he was hitting the girl, and whether he should defend his masculinity. The confused guy wanted to know why the president came here. At this time, a caring girl tried to help the wounded lady and call an ambulance. Xiaolu did not expect this and exclaimed that she should not come because the succubus was dangerous. The insidious succubus took the president of the student club by the neck and lifted him above the ground. Meeting the demon's gaze, the hero asked not to drag innocent people into this, and if she let her go, he would let the succubus go. Gan Wei Wei was pleased with what she heard, and she began to act. Using her strength, she threw the helpless girl directly into Xiaolu's arms. Suddenly, a knife was in the hands of the student club president. Fortunately, Xiaolu noticed this and stopped the lady in time. He threw the knife forcefully in the other direction, having previously taken it from the girl. The knife stuck into the wall with a crash, although it could have harmed the main character himself. The angry guy wanted to understand what was happening here. The president of the student club also had red eyes, and his gaze was completely blank. Unfortunately, the girl was bitten by a puppet tick and was now under the control of a succubus. Thus, the hero realized that if Gan Wei Wei did not keep her word, she had better not hope to get out of here alive. The succubus laughed angrily, warning her not to rush and not to forget about her friend. She even advised to control herself. Otherwise, she could not guarantee that the girl would not harm herself. With horror, the hero began to develop the next plan of action. Soon, the student club president began to lead Gan Wei away, claiming that they needed to leave. Leaving the club, the hero was met by his younger sister, and he immediately asked her where Xiake'er was. Confused, the sister said that she had just taken some lady out, after which they got into the car and drove away, and the sister's face was strange, and Ling Ling tried to call her, but she did not respond, as if they had a fight while inside. Sighing heavily, the guy sadly admitted that nothing like that happened at the club. A moment later, a new message arrived on the hero's mobile phone. It said that if he wanted to save Xiake'er, he needed to report to the Kaihuan Hotel, room 21. Hurrying away, Xiaolu shouted to his sister to run home while he needed to deal with this. Ling Ling instantly felt that her elder brother was hiding something from her, and she burned with indignation. Sometime later, events unfolded at the Kaihuan Hotel. The hero entered the elevator and chose the 21st floor to free Xiake'er. Having warned Xiao Song that it was a trap, Xiaolu headed straight into the open network. Aware of his guilt, the hero understood that because of him, Xiake'er had fallen into a trap, and despite the obvious threat, he decided to go. He also prepared a secret weapon and assured Xiao Sun that they would definitely save her. Worried, Xiao Sun was worried about how effective this weapon would be, and if it failed, she would have to come up with a new plan, since every problem has multiple solutions. The elevator doors opened, and an unknown guy was waiting for the hero on the floor. Not understanding what was happening, the hero immediately asked the mysterious guy about his identity. He just bowed and said that Gan Wei Wei was waiting for him in the room where he needed to go. The mysterious guy began to open the door. No one was visible at the entrance to the room. Suddenly, another door opened in front of them. Behind her, Gan Wei Wei was sitting on a chair, and Xiake'er was tied to the pipe. The succubus had a whip in her hands, which she began to wave. Feeling anxious, the main character asked the girl to say what she wanted in exchange for Xiake'er's freedom. Then Gan Weiwei invited him to leave this place, and then she would free the innocent lady. In fact, she was joking and said that if Xiao Lu could defeat Kai Chi, then she would free his girlfriend. Xiao Lu was afraid that this was another trap, but Xiao Sun persuaded him that given his current cultivation level, he was capable of defeating this man. Fearing deception, he wanted to understand how much he could trust her, because at any moment she could give a command and leave with her, and he would have to put up with this. Gan Weiwei convinced the hero that she had removed the influence of the puppet from Xiake'er. Otherwise, the purely arrogant succubo wouldn't be having so much fun. As soon as Gan Weiwei removed the gag from Xiake'er's mouth, she immediately screamed for Xiao Lu to call the police. The succubus turned to Xiake'er, saying that the police would not help here. The servant named Kai Chi was ready for battle. Xiao Sun was amazed that the succubus dared to look down on the young master, and a couple of blows seemed to be enough to defeat him. Then the girl warned that Kai Chi was a professional boxer. He moved with incredible speed and fought much better than Xiao Lu. Fortunately, the hero managed to dodge the insolent man's blow, but he felt the force put into the blow, and such a blow would have been more severe for an ordinary person. Xiao Lu wanted to let Kai Chi feel the power of his punch, thinking that he would not be able to dodge while standing so close. The former boxer easily dodged the main character's crushing blow. What he saw amazed the guy. He did not at all expect that this was possible. This was followed by a series of blows, and he could not understand how Kai Chi dodged so well. It turned out that it was useless, because the master gave him power and the hero's fist would never reach him. Xiake'er and Xiao Lu were amazed. They didn't even know what to do next. Parasitic cockroaches could give the host a cockroach response that a human could not match. The arrogant hero turned to the boxer, asking if he was still faithful to the succubus after everything she did to him. The insolent man began to attack Xiao Lu, unable to bear such words, and he dealt many blows to the body, and at the same time, the boxer understood that, whether a demon or a god, if they make him stronger, he will follow their orders. One of the blows was still able to hit the hero. This blow knocked him down and slammed him into the wall, which began to crack from the force of the blow. Watching the fight, the girls began to frantically worry because they doubted that Xiao Lu would be able to win. Moving away after the blow, the hero told the boxer that since he was so fanatical, he shouldn't cry later, since he forced him to use a special skill. Gan Weiwei immediately asked her servant to be careful, claiming that the guy probably still had an ace up his sleeve, and the boxer assured the master that he was always serious, regardless of the opponent. That secret weapon was the lighter. The hero began to set fire to everything that was in his path and could catch fire. The boxer was amazed that arson was his trump card. But everything turned out to be not so simple. Upscale rooms always have fire alarms, and trying to start a fire in a hotel was very stupid. In fact, arson was not his true goal, and he is just a student who has never done anything illegal. Looking straight into the guy's eyes, the boxer wanted to know what he was up to, since it wasn't a fire. The idea was not to commit arson. The point is to collect as much water as possible in the room. Using his magical abilities, the guy began to freeze the water that was under his feet. Without waiting for a response, the boxer began to attack and shouted that this was a cheap trick and he could not scare someone like that. Smiling, the hero decided that the boxer really didn't know much in his life, and didn't he know that when exposed to cold, cockroaches slowly lose all activity. All the boxer's movements became slower and more constrained. The unsuspecting boxer absolutely did not expect Xiao Lu to do such a mean thing and attack in such a way. An attack of this kind worked successfully, and the hero struck back at the impudent man with full force, destroying him literally with one blow. Having fallen to the ground, the fighter could no longer continue the fight. It wasn't really a trick. The hero prefers to call it simply knowledge, and later, in his spare time, he recommended the boxer to read several books. Pointing his finger at Gan Weiwei, He asked why she did not let Xiaoke go, since Xiaolu had won the battle. A moment later, the ropes on the girl's hands began to unravel. From that moment on, it seemed that all problems were solved. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared in front of them. It was Gan Weiwei. Her body had partially turned into a giant spider, and she didn't think it was complete. The annoyed hero could not understand why she did not keep her promise. And after all, she promised to let his friend go, and now she is committing such dishonorable acts. Laughing, the succubus could not understand what was the matter, and she released the hero's friend, but did not promise to stop hunting them. If it weren't for that useless piece of trash, she probably wouldn't have revealed her phantom devil spider form, and they became the only people to see that form. Everyone who had seen this form of the ghostly devil spider before had died, the hero guessed. This was indeed the case, and Gan Weiwei praised him for quickly grasping all the information. A large amount of web began to entwine Xiaolu's arms and legs, making it impossible for him to move. Meanwhile, Xiaoke was trying to get out and was pushing the door to get into the corridor. Unfortunately, the girl suffered the same fate, and her body was wrapped in cobwebs. An embittered spider approached the hero and wanted to do something terrible to him. Something in her was indignant at why he maintained such a cool appearance as if nothing was happening, and now, according to her idea, he should beg her for mercy. With incredible calm, the hero explained that even if he starts begging, she still won't spare him, and so he decided to save his strength. Gan Weiwei continued her attack and wanted to see if he could remain as calm as she began to torture his body. Her wish was for Xiaolu's scream to turn into a song, and she ordered him to scream. Xiaoke watched everything that was happening in horror, and only her scream could be heard. Suddenly, the hero used his secret weapon, and thus the embittered spider began to retreat. Coughing heavily, she wanted to know what spray he used and why she was in such unbearable pain. This turned out to be a particularly powerful dichlorvos, designed to combat mosquitoes, flies, cockroaches, and other annoying insects, and the seller assured that even a small spray of this product would be enough to destroy all unpleasant guests. The spider was in unbearable pain. It was difficult for her to breathe, and gradually she began to suffocate. Soon her body began to disappear, leaving only a dark something. Xiaolu used the spray and made sure that the seller did not deceive him. One click and the insect dies. The brave guy approached the girl and said that he had come to save her. He then asked her not to be afraid, assuring her that they were now safe and all problems had been solved. Meanwhile, the hero felt that Xiaoke was hugging him too tightly. Xiao Sun immediately realized that something was wrong with the girl. Blushing, the girl asked him to hug her and hold her tighter. As it turns out, they put a spell on her, and if they don't find an antidote, she will feel like fire is entering her brain until she hurts herself. The current state was reminiscent of the psychological imbalance of the boss's sister, and yet the succubus had already died, and Xiaolu was confused about where to look for a cure now. There was only one way to get the antidote, but in this case, the hero would have to sacrifice himself. He could not comprehend the need to do something so shameful, and if he removes the spell from her without her consent, he will become a criminal, all this just to save her. And Xiaolu asked Xiao Sun to leave the room, but she did not could leave him alone, and he was too inexperienced, and so she needed to guide him. The involved hero tried to explain to the mysterious girl that he did not need her help in this matter, and he had seen this done in several Japanese videos and believed that he could handle this task himself. Xiao Sun was against it, claiming that just a video was not enough, and suddenly something would go wrong, and she wanted to support him. After some time, Xiaolu begged Xiao Sun not to mention sacrificing with himself anymore, as he might have misunderstood the expression. A caring and mysterious girl began to bandage the hero's hand, as she should have been worried about his health. Thus, Xiaoke drank the guy's blood, and she should have been fine, because his blood contained the highest vital energy, and one sip would be enough to neutralize any poison. The skeptical young man wanted to know if there were any side effects in his blood, but Xiao Sun asked him not to joke like that because his blood was the best in the world and it could not have any side effects. Besides, after contact with his blood, no other guys besides him would be attracted to her, and Xiao Sun thought this could hardly be considered a side effect. Sometime later, Xiao Keir finally woke up and screamed in alarm so that no one would get hurt. She was worried about Xiao Lu, but now everything was fine and the useless succubus was killed. Briefly outlining the situation, the hero explained that they had defeated Gan Wei Wei, and now everyone was safe. Worried, Shak still didn't feel safe because of the spirit girl hovering around the hero. Xiao Sun reacted irritably to this statement, not considering herself a spirit girl due to her unique appearance. It turned out that after Shak drank Xiao Lu's blood, she could now see spirits due to the changes in her body. Now that she could see Xiao Sun, the hero had to show all his cards. A few minutes later, after telling the whole story, he apologized to the girl for getting her into this mess and for the fact that the succubus attacked her because of him. Shake. Thought that if she had not heard this story from Xiao Lu and seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed in the existence of such evil creatures as a succubus. Fortunately, the hero was done with the succubus, and Xiao Sun reminded him that it was not the only succubus in the world, and there might be others ready to attack him in the future. The irritated hero declared that this succubus was enough for him, and he did not want to encounter such creatures in the future. This is all because the Blossom Immortals are the succubi's worst enemies, a punishment for the forbidden love between heaven and earth. And even if the parties are not looking to meet, they can still cross paths with each other. Xiao Lu then wanted to understand what he would do if he met someone who was also difficult to deal with, and Xia Ke offered her help since she now knows about the evil creatures in this world and cannot simply ignore it. Turning sharply, the guy expressed gratitude for her kindness but refused, explaining that it was too dangerous for an ordinary person. The girl claimed that she was not afraid of danger, but the hero insisted on his decision. Xiao Sun decided to end their argument and suggested that Xia Ke should be cultivated so that she could resist the succubi and become extraordinary. Without hesitation, Xia Ke agreed. Stepping aside, Xiao Lu was indignant, not understanding that Xia Ke could cultivate, and he did not want her to get involved in forbidden relationships and love many men. Everything turned out to be more complicated, and Xiao Sun had another book called The Heart Sutra of the Beautiful Maiden, a method for cultivating innocent girls, and this book was created by the Blooming Immortals a long time ago. Confused, the hero smiled, realizing that he had misunderstood his companion. He soon discovered that the problem was not the cultivation methods, but that they should not drag innocence into their difficulties. While Xiao Sun handed over the book, Xia Ke expressed her gratitude to the master as she was going to make efforts to rid the earth of all succubi. With a heavy sigh, the hero realized that it would probably be extremely difficult for him to deal with the succubi alone. All this time, someone was watching the heroes and thinking that mortal enemies and the intrigues of damned love were just fairy tales created to deceive people, and the unknown person did not believe in it. After a while, Xiao Lu and Ling Ling were enjoying a meal at their home. The younger sister asked her brother not to use the phone at the table. At the same time, the brave hero warned her that he was almost finished. It turned out that he was corresponding with Xia Ke and telling her about Qigong, and the explanation was too long, so today, after class, he was going to teach the girl it, and the girl began to blackmail him, claiming that she would have to wait too long, and Xiao Lu agreed to go. Due to important matters at the university, the hero had to leave early, so he informed his sister about it. The girl couldn't understand what happened, and he didn't even finish his breakfast, and her brother was acting weirder and weirder. A few dozen minutes later, Lin Lin and her classmate were walking down the street, and Lin noticed that her friend looked sad. It was all because of her older brother, and he had never hidden anything from her before. But now it seemed like he was hiding something. And in the morning at breakfast, he was constantly on the phone and didn't even finish his food. It seemed to a friend that her brother had a girlfriend, and she believed that passionate love had arisen between them. Younger sister Lingling was shocked by the answer she heard. She didn't expect this at all. The friend thought that it was normal for her older brother, a university student, to have a girlfriend. But the younger sister was afraid that some unkind woman might influence her brother, in which case, in her opinion, the girl would have to take her test. Suddenly there were loud bangs. One of the boys from their school was being bullied. Lingling instantly recognized that it was Wu Fei from their class, and for some reason he was bullying the guy, and the friend asked the girl not to interfere, and the one who was attacking the guy turned out to be Zhao Yanan from the 12th grade, and she contacted the troubled company outside of school, and she should not have interfered in this situation. Angry, Zhao Yanan asked Wu Fei how he dared not pay the month's protection money. Then she ordered the guys to show him what the consequences could be if you don't pay on time. A moment later, Lingling screamed at the police, reporting the fight. The bullies tried to run away, and Zhao Yanan shouted after them, warning that if the guy did not pay before the end of classes, he would have to go home without clothes. The friend admired Lingling's courage in deceiving the bullies by pretending that the police were nearby, and she knew that those who were planning something bad would become afraid at the mention of the police. Approaching the guy, Zhao Yanan asked if everything was okay with him and if he was hurt. The embarrassed guy was silent, not knowing what to answer her. The girl reminded him that he was a guy and should be braver. If the bullying doesn't stop, they should tell the teachers, and Lingling supported him. During the next lesson, Wu Fei watched Lingling closely. It turned out that he was painting a portrait of his beloved Lingling. Suddenly, someone snatched the drawing. The rude guy started asking the loser what he was drawing there. A cry echoed throughout the class that Wu Fei was secretly drawing the beauty queen of their class, and the boy was asked to look in the mirror, claiming that an ugly toad could not dream of swan meat. The lessons ended, and Wu Fei was left alone in the classroom. Zhao Yanan threw a piece of paper at him to get his attention. She wanted to know where her money was. The confused guy felt pathetic. His heart was ready to explode. Wu Fei began to cry, believing that the girl should feel this pain twice as much. The rude woman thought that the guy was trying to curse her and prepared to hit him. But suddenly, her hand was wrapped in green lightning. The hand did not obey her at all, frozen in the air. Wu Fei gloatingly decided that if a girl likes to beat someone so much, then let her beat herself. Using his incredible magical powers, he forced the girl to beat herself. From that day on, he was her master, and Zhao Yanan had to carry out all his orders, and on his finger was a ring that accumulated power from the anger of its owner, and when the ring was filled with anger, the owner gained the ability to control other people, and the effect stopped when anger in front of opponents dried up. By force of will, he captured the girl's face and pressed her to him so that she would help him express all his anger. Later, Wu Fei returned home. He reflected that the ring was truly incredible, and it was only a pity that its influence was limited to those whom he wanted to take revenge on. There were many photos of his beloved Lingling on his computer. He dreamed that if things were different, he could make Lingling his girlfriend. Lingling's friends the next day told about Zhao Yanan, who suddenly agreed to clean the restroom, including the men's restroom. The teacher approached the girl to find out what had happened. She said this was her payback to those she had humiliated in the past. Lingling thought that Zhao Yanan must have realized that her behavior was wrong. An ecstatic Lingling turned around to look at Wu Fei. Approaching him, she told him that Zhao Yanan had changed and would no longer pester him. Now, he needed to gain courage, and the girl sincerely believed that he could do it. The joyful guy said that he would do his best. But suddenly, another bully approached him and asked the loser, since when he was so close to the queen of the class. He reminded Wu Fei that only he had the right to flirt with her, and people like him should stay away from her. The Ring of Vengeance has once again acquired even greater power. And a moment later, that same bully took off his pants and threw them out the window. In only his underpants, he ran around the classroom and shouted that he was a pervert. A few minutes later, the police arrived and wanted to detain him, but he asked not to interfere because he was a pervert. Looking at the ring, Wu Fei thought that those who bullied him would receive 100 times more humiliation in retaliation. Looking at the girl, he reassured her, assuring her that he was not someone who could be humiliated, and he was ready to protect her. The friends were discussing that when a woman in the cafeteria prepares a dish with meat, for some reason there is no meat in it, and Lin Lin noticed that this, in her opinion, helps to lose weight. Wu Fei's gaze was instantly drawn to that woman. A moment later, this woman approached the students and admitted that she had forgotten to add meat, asking for an opportunity to correct the situation. During physical education class, the coach told Ling Ling that sports day was coming, and her results in the 100-meter dash were so bad that it was as if she hadn't had much rest or trained enough in the first place. To change things, Wu Fei once again used his magic ring of revenge. The coach immediately started crying and screaming, claiming that it was only 100 meters and he was not even capable of running it in 10 seconds, and he called himself useless and stated that he had no right to teach them. While running away from Ling Ling, the coach continued to shout that he was leaving and would write a letter of resignation. At this time, Wu Fei continued to closely monitor the situation, staying close to prevent Ling Ling from being humiliated. Classes finally ended, and Ling Ling's gaze went to the side, all because of the appearance of her beloved brother, Xiao Lu. The joyful little sister was curious why he came to her today. At this time, Ling Ling and Xiao Lu came into the spotlight when someone started taking pictures of them with a mobile phone. This someone turned out to be Wu Fei, who did not understand why this guy was so close to Ling Ling and was going to give him a real test. Using his magic ring, he used it with maximum power. The hero's attention shifted to the side because something caught his attention. Xiao Sun also noticed that she smelled the scent of a succubus nearby. Meanwhile, Ling Ling reminded her brother that the girls at her school were not yet adults, and if he tried to do anything against them, he might be detained by the police. The caring brother pinched his sister's cheek and assured her that he had no intention of noticing her classmates. He also asked his sister if anything unusual happened at school today. Remembering the morning, the girl realized that something was unusual. The last thing that happened was in a physical education lesson where the teacher suddenly burst into tears and wanted to leave, and the girl could not understand what happened to him. But Xiao Sun immediately realized that the succubus was controlling the minds of all these people, and he is still somewhere. At school. Ling Ling felt fear and clung to her brother, and she was afraid that she might lose herself and start acting strange. And yet, as long as Xiao Lu was by her side, no one would dare to harm her. At this moment, the enmity between Xiao Lu and Wu Fei escalated due to the desire to protect Ling Ling. 3 days later, Ling Ling took part in the sports festival at their school. To identify the succubus hiding in the school, Xiake and Xiao Lu pretended to be schoolchildren and, taking advantage of the chaos at the festival, entered the school. Meanwhile, Xiao Lu spoke to the president, admitting that perhaps she shouldn't have gone, but she insisted that it was for Ling Ling's safety. Besides, this was her old school, and she couldn't ignore the fact that there was a succubus hiding somewhere here. The guy didn't have to worry after cultivating. She would be able to fight alongside him and wouldn't become a burden. Xiake, meanwhile, was thinking that her outfit was too tight, and had she really gained so much weight in a year that she no longer fit into her uniform. Suddenly, someone turned to the girl, calling her a beauty, and asked what class she was from. One of the high school students, who had not previously known the girl, decided to introduce himself. The irritated girl ordered the impudent guy to disappear and not bother her anymore. The impudent guy was not going to stop and said that in this school, no one has the right to talk to him like that, because he is called a tyrant for a reason. Without hesitation, the girl took the impudent man and threw him head down with force. Rubbing her hands, explained that the nickname Turtle is more suitable for him. Some students noticed that there was a fight and some girl was beating up a guy. The high school student began to cry and said that the girl and the guy tried to take money from him, and when he refused, they began to beat him. Because of the slander, Xiaoke immediately took the guy to a painful hold, and Xiaolu noticed that if she continued to press his arm, she would break it. The girl even wanted this, because freaks like him spoil the reputation of the school. Meanwhile, the hero noticed his sister quickly approaching, and he asked the girl to leave quickly so that her sister would not notice what was happening. Immediately, they were approached by the physical education teacher, who asked the two students to follow him to the staff room. To prevent possible problems, Xiaoke and Xiaolu went to the staff room with the teacher. They also thought that if they ran away, they would be wasting another day searching for the succubi, and if the teacher started investigating, he would find out who they were. Because of the school's sports festival, there would be no one else in the staff room except them, and they could quickly deal with the teacher and then continue searching for traces of the succubus. When they opened the door to the teacher's room, the girl and guy were amazed by what they saw. There were many hooligans waiting for them in the office, and Zhao Yanan even had a knife. Xiaoke immediately kicked them out of the office because they were acting like bandits, even in the staff room. The impudent Zhao Yanan spat at the girl and said that she has no right to interfere because she hates beauties for whom guys stand in line, as they are too arrogant. At that time, Xiaoke also hated such girls, because those who do not respect learning put themselves in the path of sin, and such people have small brains. The bully was eager to watch the girl in love, wondering if she would become just as arrogant if she had some scars on her skin. The girl was amazed that the hooligan in the teacher's office took out a knife, as if she had no common sense left at all. As it turns out, the PE teacher joined them because the students weren't listening to his instructions, and he decided to give them a lesson to show them why it's important to listen to teachers. At this time, Wu Fei personally observed everything that was happening and supervised the process. He enjoyed the schadenfreude and felt satisfaction that the show was just beginning to develop. Returning to the past, events unfolded shortly before this moment. Previously, Xiaolu almost noticed Wu Fei, but he disappeared, realizing that this guy was not like everyone else and was able to sense his strength and had to reconsider his revenge plan. Therefore, after a small conflict, he decided to take advantage of the situation with Wu Fei to demonstrate to him what the consequences could be if someone tries to encroach on his beloved. Suddenly, Xiao Sun appeared, warning the heroes that she felt the aura of a succubus on these guys, and their consciousness was under her control. The brave guy took the girl with him and asked her to stand behind him to give him the opportunity to deal with them. The girl also showed her courage and asked to leave the situation to her, and also to check how her training was going. Xiao Sun confirmed that the lady has the strength of 10 people, and these ordinary people under the control of the succubus are not a threat to her. Provoking a reaction from Zhao Yanan, Xiaoke deftly removed the knife from her hands. With an ominous look, the lady remarked that girls should not play with knives, and also said this while looking at Zhao Yanan. The brazen hooligan ordered her friends not to remain inactive, but also to join in the attack on the girl. The hooligans immediately began to attack the girl, but she easily dodged each of their blows. Suddenly, Fizrik came up from behind and began to choke the girl, grabbing her by the neck. Using the strength of 10 people, she easily knocked him down and threw him a considerable distance, since he did not dare to touch her body. Confused, Zhao Yanan knelt, not knowing what to do next. Xiake was left without a single scratch and easily defeated 3 people with the strength of 10 people. Wu Fei began to worry, not understanding where such a strong girl as a Black Widow came from, who ruined all his plans, and now he did not know what to do. He also realized that fear is a sign of weakness, and only hatred gives a person strength, and he should accept hatred in his heart, and it will burn everything. As if possessed, Wu Fei began repeating that he was obliged to take revenge. Approaching the hooligan, the girl said that if Zhao Yanan were her friend, she would be the same as those hooligans, and she should be more careful in the future. Looking at each other, the heroes could not understand where the succubus was, since they had defeated all opponents. The succubus had set a trap for them, but it was unclear why he hadn't come to look himself, and perhaps he was monitoring everything from the security room, and they should go there and check. Xiake was glad that the hero himself figured this out and admitted that he was really smart. Because Xiake drank Xiaolu's blood, she admires him forever, and without noticing it, she exaggerates his strengths and seems to simply admire him. The hero was not entirely comfortable, but he decided to go to the security room, because if they did not hurry, the succubus could escape. Suddenly, the door opened in front of them. The same succubus stood in front of the couple, surrounded by a dark aura, and his gaze was full of malice. Looking at the succubus, Xiake found it hard to believe that it was him, because his appearance did not match his beauty. In his embittered state, Wu Fei felt terrible rage and anger as he watched the heroes. He believed that whoever dared to call him a freak should be destroyed. Using his magical abilities, he began to throw many objects, creating them in the air. Fortunately, Xiaolu easily repelled every attack from this impudent succubus. The caring guy turned to the president asking if she was okay, and indeed she was, because he managed to protect her. Horrified, Zhao Yanan tried to run away, praying to be saved, for she was overcome by an incredible feeling of fear. Meanwhile, Wu Fei stopped her, claiming that there was nothing to fear, as only hatred would give her strength. Feeling intense anger, the guy easily turned an ordinary girl into a monster, her nails becoming sharp claws. From that moment on, the girl felt only a thirst for revenge and immediately wanted to attack. Xiake actually let her go, since she is a woman, and she believed that she would not have to let her go again. The 2 incredibly strong girls began attacking each other, running to deliver devastating blows. The battle began. The heroine intended to kick, but the mutant easily dodged. Possessing new power, the girl gained abilities that she did not have before. Taking advantage of Xiake's distraction, Zhao Yanan slashed at her shoulder with her claws. She also planned to distort the girl's face so that her own mother would not find out. The hero feared for the girl's life and rushed to help. Suddenly, an object began to fall on him as magic was used. Fortunately, thanks to his reaction, the hero dodged and avoided the fall of a huge cabinet. Grinning, the succubus noticed that his opponent was right in front of him. Once again, he resorted to his supernatural abilities, aimed at defeating Xiaolu. Using super powerful magic, he raised many sharp objects into the air, intending to attack the hero. With dexterity and instant reaction, sharp objects were launched like darts, directly towards the protagonist. Using his reaction and skill, the guy avoided each of the flying objects. Wu Fei assured the hero that before penetrating his heart, he would torture every cell of his body to absorb his anger. Meanwhile, the hero realized that in order to defeat this unusual creature, he needed to close the distance, but a bunch of pens blocked his path, and he did not quite understand how to act. Noticing the water tank, Xiaolu instantly had an idea that could ensure his victory. This cunning guy immediately disappeared behind a water tank. The succubus only chuckled, believing that such a method would not protect the hero from danger. Meanwhile, the handles fell into the water tank, causing it to collapse. The succubus loudly declared that Xiaolu now looked like a wet dog, and that he should never have been near Ling Ling. What he heard shocked the hero, and he immediately asked which Ling Ling we were talking about. Throwing out his hands, the succubus announced that this was his goddess, Lu Ling Ling, and he would not allow other guys to get close to her because she was his girlfriend. Feeling furious, Xiaolu could not bear it and rushed to attack. Seeing him approaching, the succubus laughed, claiming that the hero would not be able to close the distance for melee combat, since the handle would reach his body much faster. Many flying objects again came in the direction of the hero, but he continued to run away. Unfortunately, the hands thrown by the succubus got stuck in the hero's body. However, Wu Fei realized with horror that the pens were only stuck in his shirt. Since his shirt was made of ice, which covered half of his body, the clothing froze, creating an ice armor for him that could fend off attacks. The hero flared up with anger because the scoundrel dared to fight for the heart of her little sister. What he heard shocked the guy, and he did not realize that it was his sister. With a powerful and single blow, Xiaolu easily neutralized the impudent Wu Fei. But this was not the end, but only the beginning of a series of blows aimed at destroying the succubus. After everything that happened, the hero couldn't just leave the demon. The defeated impudent lay in an unconscious state, unable to utter a word. The ring that was previously on his finger came off during the impact and was no longer on his hand. Approaching the hero, Shekayer asked what happened, since the girl who was against her simply lost consciousness. All because the owner fainted, and the puppets immediately lost the ability to fight. Suddenly, the girl noticed that there was some kind of ring lying on the floor. To get a closer look, she picked it up. It was immediately clear that this was a special ring, and she wanted to wear it. Fearing that something terrible might happen, the hero immediately took it, warning that it was better not to wear it because there was really something wrong with this ring. Xiaolu, holding the ring in her hands, felt a strange energy from it. The companion said that her owner was right. This is a cursed object, enchanted by a powerful succubus that allows the wearer dark powers. The guy couldn't be a strong succubus. He was an ordinary person, and his powers came from the ring. Then the heroes decided to wait until Wu Fei came to his senses to find out from him where he got this ring. Using his magical abilities, the hero accelerated Wu Fei's awakening by splashing some water directly on his face. Just a moment later, the impudent man jumped and returned to consciousness. The angry heroes watched as the impudent one woke up. The beaten boy begged not to beat him, saying that it was all his fault. Leaning towards him, Xiaolu said that she might not even hit him, but only if he was honest about where he got the ring. Otherwise, he would have to pay for molesting her sister. The guy even got his pants dirty out of fear. Coincidentally, he wet himself, and if he's lying, the hero will freeze that water. The embarrassed guy covered himself and promised to tell everything, asking not to hurt him. It turned out that he received the ring a week ago, and he was walking down the street and worried that he needed to pay for protection tomorrow. Otherwise, he would be beaten again. But he did not know where to get the money. The merchant sitting opposite turned to Wu Fei and invited him to look at his goods. The same merchant noticed that his things only fall into the hands of special people, and he saw that the guy was special. Having become interested, the boy wanted to understand what it means to be special or not special, and the seller said that he was selling books with the secrets of martial arts, but this was an ordinary ring. The merchant noted that the guy has something special in his eyes, and fortunately, this ring of revenge suits him perfectly, helping him take revenge on everyone who displeases him. Wu Fei was skeptical about this and wanted to know who this merchant was and how he knew that the guy wanted revenge on someone. The mysterious man replied that it doesn't matter who he is. The main thing is that by wearing this ring, the guy will gain the power of revenge. The guy looked at the ring in surprise, wondering if he could really gain the power of revenge by wearing it. Suddenly, the merchant seemed to disappear, and Wu Fei couldn't understand how it happened, since he was right in front of him just now. Then he realized that he could use the ring to control people, and from the beginning he thought that Xiaolu was Ling Ling's boyfriend and wanted to harm with her help. And in fact, he did not know that he was her brother, and apologized. He admitted his mistake. After listening to the guy's story, Xiake realized that he was not lying, and it was still unclear why the succubus gave him the ring. And Xiao Sun noticed that the actions of strong succubi are difficult to explain, and with such a volume of information, it is too early to build theories. Dark artifacts are dangerous. They should not be allowed in the hands of people with bad intentions, and the hero decided to find out if it was possible to somehow destroy the ring. And Xiao Sun said that the power of the Blooming Immortals is a direct antagonist of the succubi, and he needs to try to pour his power into the ring. The next moment, the hero began to use his magical abilities to destroy this cursed ring. In the process of destroying the ring, Wu Fei began to experience incredible pain. After the destruction of the ring, it was revealed that its owner would receive all the memories and events that occurred while wearing this ring. To summarize, it is necessary to reduce the risks for Ling Ling, so it is better to leave this place before someone else arrives. Events continue to unfold outside the building. The mysterious lady watched everything that happened and thought that the situation was becoming more and more exciting. Immediately, there were knocks on the door. Ling Ling, who was called Madam, appeared. After paying attention to the girl because of her profile, Lin Lin learned that her current guardian is her brother, and after the death of her parents, he took care of her. But the documents indicate that he is a university student, which likely carries additional responsibility. The woman noted that he is a really good brother, but nevertheless, he faces significant difficulties because, in addition to studying, he works to cover his debts, and he still needs to pay his sister Sia a large amount. The sister began to worry, realizing that because of her, her brother had to worry a lot, and in order to pay off his debts, he was forced to take a disgusting job, and besides, he had to pay large sums to his sister Shi. The woman had a suitable job for her brother with good pay, but she doubted whether he would be interested in it. Upon returning home, Lin Lin shared with her brother the offer to become a tutor. He needed to teach one student in the evenings without affecting his studies, and the fee was 10,000 yuan per month. The hero did not understand why Mrs. Wang recommended him as a tutor, but his sister believed that she was just a kind person who knew about their situation and was trying to help. However, the guy realized that he had never tried himself as a tutor before. And my sister also knew that he had never worked in such places, and yet he quickly became their trump card, and he agreed to this unpleasant job, but refused a more suitable one. The caring brother nevertheless agreed, deciding to try himself as a tutor, and he planned to find high school textbooks, and Ling Ling intended to find a part-time job as soon as he entered university to ease his hardships. Calling his sister stupid, the hero explained that it was not difficult for him at all, and if she was still worried, then she needed to study more diligently and not worry about money. Sometime later, Miss Wang arrived, warning the hero not to put off work, and a student was waiting for her. The sister was delighted that her brother agreed to the proposal. The woman was struck by the close connection between brother and sister. As Xiaolu got into the car, he said that Ling Ling talked about how a woman took care of her at school and offered him a job, and he didn't know how to thank her, and the woman thought that accepting the job would be the best thank you. After all, the student himself turned out to be unusual. It was Lin Bao, the winner of the Perfect Idol competition, and the hero saw her on TV, and her popularity surpassed the second place twice. Ling Ling was her fan. The woman was delighted, realizing that she had chosen the right tutor, and he had not yet started teaching, but already understood the material and, without a doubt, would be an excellent teacher. A few minutes later, they stood at the student's door. Together with the woman, they waited for the girl to open the door. The girl, not expecting anyone, looked at the guests in surprise, and she was very happy because her aunt came to her and the woman considered her an adult, but she still behaved like a child, and now she had a new teacher. The girl immediately welcomed the new teacher. It turned out that Lin Bao could not attend school due to work, and the woman needed a caring tutor, and therefore the guy had to take care of her. The kind woman wished the girl successful studies and asked her to study hard. Milady also expressed her joy and bade farewell to her aunt. Noticing that Lin Bao was already 18 years old, the hero decided to conduct a test in the 12th grade to determine her level. In response, the girl expressed a desire to ask the teacher a few questions. Specifically, she wanted to know how experienced he was in his field. At this time, Xiao Sun appeared, noticing that Lin Bao was active and also beautiful. Confused, the hero refused to answer this question. Then Lin Bao flirtatiously began to question him, wondering what kind of girls he liked, cute, innocent, or stubborn, but regardless of preferences, she assured that she could impress anyone. In response, the hero took the book in his hands and playfully hit the girl on the head, noting that he likes those who study seriously, and he hurried her to complete the test, warning that if she continued to be distracted, he would tell her aunt everything. The upset girl listened to the teacher, but asked not to tell her aunt, explaining that when she was angry, she could become very scary. The girl gladly provided the test sheet and announced that she was finished. The hero was noticeably surprised, not expecting her to complete the test so quickly, and as it turned out, she was excellent at mathematics. After checking the test, the hero discovered that she scored only 60 points. But the girl was happy with this result, since 60 points was a passing grade. Smiling and a little angry, the hero said that the maximum possible score in this test was 150 points, and thought that perhaps being a tutor was not as easy as he thought. An hour passed, during which Xiaolu explained to the girl all the errors in her test, and classes for today ended, and tomorrow there was a class in other subjects. Lin Bao didn't want the guy to leave and invited him to stay a little longer. She has a PlayStation 4 and wants to play with him. The time was already late, and if the hero did not hurry up, his younger sister would begin to worry, and the girl should also stop playing and go to bed early. In surprise, the student asked if the hero really had a younger sister, and the hero said that she was the same age as Lin Bao, studying in high school, and was her fan, and therefore, being her tutor, he would make every effort to idolize him. Sisters successfully passed the entrance exams to the university. It turned out that it was all a test, and the girl apologized for the joke, explaining that if he hadn't passed the test, she would have had a taser. Smiling, the hero realized that he had passed it. This was confirmed, and she also showed interest in Xiaolu. Fearing another joke, the hero realized that the girl was apparently still mocking him, and he would have to give her more homework. The girl confirmed that she was not joking. When Lin Bao went to bed, she thought about how well she had done today and expected a restful sleep. The bear sitting on the windowsill seemed to be watching her, his eyes glowing green. Events developed the next day, and the hero knocked on the girl's door. There was no answer, and he thought that no one was home. But a few seconds later, the student herself appeared, looking worried, and apologized for the delay. Observing her behavior, the hero immediately realized that something was wrong with her. Suddenly, the girl began to fall. Her gait became unsteady, her legs seemed to give way. Surprised, Xiaolu couldn't figure out what was wrong with the girl's leg. It turned out that when she woke up, she felt severe pain in her leg and could not leave the house all day. Judging by her condition, she couldn't even walk, so the hero offered to give her a massage, to which the girl happily agreed. A little afraid of the girl's reaction, he said that he once worked in a spa salon and knew how to relax her foot, which might reduce the pain. Hearing this, the girl was happy and asked to massage her leg. The lady expressed her desire to see the teacher demonstrate his technique, while the hero began the massage, trying to help the girl as much as possible. She was amazed and embarrassed to realize that the pain had gone away. Xiaolu explained that the girl only had a few abrasions, possibly caused by uncomfortable shoes. In general, everything was in order, and he decided to apply a patch, and if he did not disturb his leg, then everything should go away in a couple of days. The girl was not pleased with the appearance of the patch. It was far from cute. Focused, the hero asked her to calm her inner idol, saying that health was more important, and besides, no one would see her leg. The girl focused on the fact that the teacher was looking at her legs and wanted to know if he liked them. At this moment, the hero pressed the middle of his foot. In response, the girl exclaimed, experiencing pain. Realizing that the pain could be greater if she continued to make fun of her, instead of learning, the hero decided to warn. A few minutes later, they resumed their studies, and the hero noticed that the girl studied much better and avoided yesterday's mistakes. The lady believed that, having tried, she deserved a reward, and Xiaolu clarified that if it was not beyond reason, he could fulfill her request. As if worried about something, the girl invited the hero to spend the night together. Hearing such a request, the hero instantly assumed that she was mocking again, but the girl explained that she needed the guy to leave after she fell asleep because of her fears. Lately, her nightmares had become constant, and last night was no exception. In a dream, an image appeared in front of her as if she was preparing for a wedding. She was seen in a pink, gorgeous dress, but for some reason, she felt uneasy. The anxiety arose due to the fact that her lover appeared before her in the form of a terrible monster. Seeing him, the girl was overcome with frantic fear. The monster said that he knew about Lin Bauer's dream to hold a wedding like in a fairy tale, and for this he prepared her. Together with the monster, they walked along the red carpet where they met many cartoon characters. After some time, the monster became interested in why only girls were visiting and not a single guy. The worried lady explained that there was no need to worry as she had already sent the invitations, and the horse prince and the toad prince would be the drivers for the wedding. The monster realized that the groomsmen did not meet the girl's expectations. After all, it was unacceptable for him to have someone more beautiful than him at the wedding. What she heard terrified the girl, and she did not know how to react to it. She knew it was just a nightmare, and she needed to get rid of it. Running in her sleep, she could not understand what was happening and why her legs did not obey. The monster knew about her love for dancing, so he ordered a pair of red shoes for her. Before the ceremony began, he wanted to dance to his fullest. It was clear that the lady did not want this at all, and she screamed about it to the monster. Lin Bao thought it was just a nightmare, but in the morning, when she woke up, she felt severe pain in her leg. Xiaosun appeared and explained that if it was an ordinary nightmare, the girl would not have been harmed in real life, and she also added that it was the prerogative of succubi to harm people through dreams. The guy instantly agreed and assured the girl that he would be by her side and leave after she fell asleep. Night fell, and the girl was getting ready for bed, knowing that the guy would be nearby. The lady was concerned about the possible repetition of the nightmare and was wondering what to do if it returned. In a calm voice, the hero assured that he would protect her. The girl didn't quite understand how he could protect her in a dream, and the guy asked her to think about him so that he could help in the dream. This meant that she needed to look at the hero to make it easier to think about him. Within seconds, the girl fell asleep, and it became clear that something was wrong. The eyes of the bear on the windowsill began to glow green again. Xiaosun immediately noticed this and told the hero. The aura of the succubus on this toy was the same as the Ring of Revenge. To find out how he harms people, he would have to destroy this bear cub, and the hero began to use his magical abilities. Xiao Sun asked the hero to refrain, explaining that destroying the bear cub now could prevent Lin Bao from being saved from the nightmare. So they should have tried to wake her up first. The hero began to diligently wake up the girl, and it was clear from her face that she was seeing a nightmare. She did not wake up because Lin Bao found herself in a dream created by the forces of the succubus controlling this bear cub, and the only hope was that this person would free the girl from this influence. Otherwise, it was impossible to avoid the tragedy. Then, the hero realized that they would have to wait until morning, and as soon as this man freed Lin Bao he would immediately destroy the toy. Indignant, Xiao Sun knew that perhaps they did not have time to wait, and judging by her words, the ceremony would take place today, and if Lin Bao decided to marry this monster, she would forever fall in love with the person playing the role of this monster in life. Xiao Lu could not allow this monster to touch Lin Bao, and he wanted to know what he needed to do to stop the ceremony, and the only way to penetrate the girl's dream and stop the ceremony, and the bear cub in his hand became the key to her dream. It was necessary just fall asleep while in his field of vision. It was then that he decided to lie down next to the girl to save her. Sometime later, the hero woke up at the castle where the ceremony was taking place, and he needed to get inside as soon as possible. Suddenly, the guards announced that he was prohibited from entering the castle. Mr. Monster stated that only characters from fairy tales could attend the ceremony, and besides, handsome guys were not allowed to enter, and this left the guy in thought. Hearing this, the guy thought about storming in, and Xiao Sun reassured him by offering to let her handle the matter alone. The guy asked what offer she had. She happily said that she could offer the guards what they needed. And then the main character underwent a transformation. The soldiers were amazed, and Mr. Monster turned out to be so magnificent that even characters from Oriental fairy tales came to his wedding. It turned out that Xiao Lu turned into one of the characters from fairy tales in order to infiltrate the castle. The worried girl screamed that no one would want to marry such a freak and begged him to let her go. A moment later, the priest was already asking the master of the monster if he agreed to take Lady Lin Bao as his wife, and the monster agreed. Then the priest turned to Lady Lin Bao asking if she would agree to marry the lord of the monster, and the girl refused 1,000 times. The embittered monster looked at the priest. He stated that since they both agreed, he officially proclaimed them. Suddenly, another character came in shouting that he was against it. He expressed his opposition to this union, claiming that it was obvious that Lin Bao did not want this marriage. The soldiers became angry, not understanding how a monkey from the east could disrupt the master's wedding. But Lin Bao recognized her teacher in the monkey and wanted to understand why he was here. The brave guy said that he promised to protect her. The monster was even more annoyed, not believing that the girl considered him a teacher, and Lin Bao explained that he was her tutor, hired by her aunt, and he came to her house every evening. Mr. Monster realized that this creature dared to be alone with Lin Bao and he could never forgive her for this. Then Xiao Lu decided that, apparently, everything would have to be resolved in a bad way. The terrible monster suggested that no one should interfere, since the hero had decided to oppose it, and so they had to have a duel that would decide whether the wedding would take place. One of the monster's servants began to tie the girl's hands. The monster clarified that if the hero wins, he will free Lin Bao and if the monster wins, the ceremony will continue and the monster will destroy Xiao Lu. Xiao Sun explained that the wounds received in the dream will be reflected in the real world, and if he kills in the dream, then he will be dead in real life. But if he wins in the dream, he will be able to overcome his enemies in real life. With determination, the hero accepted the challenge to a duel. Mr. Monster ordered the soldier to give the duelist the sword. Having received a new weapon, Xiao Lu was fully prepared for battle. The opponent clarified that in sword fighting, he is always honest and does not use tricks. The priest declared that since both sides agreed, the duel could begin. The terrible monster instantly attacked, jumping several meters up. Their blades crossed, and the duel officially began. After many blows, the monster dropped his sword and could no longer fight. Pointing the sword at his opponent, the protagonist declared him defeated. Linbao. Happily watched what was happening and was glad that her teacher defeated this vile monster. The gloating monster was quick to doubt whether the hero really thought he could defeat him. Xiaolu realized that to win this duel, he needed to break his opponent's arms and test how strong he was in magic. The monster, with his bare hand, was able to break the sword into small particles. With surprise, the hero could not understand how this was possible. It turns out that the monster missed a detail. These clothes are protected by magic, and neither swords nor spears can penetrate them, and it is obvious that the guy has no chance of winning this duel. Seeing this, Linbao exclaimed, accusing the monster of cheating, since the situation in the duel was not at all balanced. Here the world of the sinister monster reigns, and he is given the right to decide what is fair and what is not. And he has already proposed a duel, which was a noble act rarely given to ordinary people to fight a deity. The scoundrel's impudent remarks were followed by an instant blow right to his jaw. If a monster is so afraid of being hit, why doesn't he wear a helmet? But lying won't get you very far, and a scoundrel like him would definitely need a helmet. The next moment, the enraged monster came to his senses and declared that he was the creator and owner of this entire world, and since they attacked him, this, in his opinion, was an attack on God himself. Instantly, he came to his senses and was ready to fight again. Using his magical powers, the monster summoned a giant fireball, declaring that his guests must die as an apology. A giant fireball was instantly sent towards Xiaolu. Fortunately, the guy had excellent reflexes and easily avoided the blow. But he could not foresee that the fireballs would pursue him. Noticing the glasses of wine, the hero had a new plan. Approaching the glasses of wine, a sudden explosion followed, throwing the hero several meters away. There was smoke floating around, and it was unclear what happened to the guy. The stunned girl screamed, asking where her teacher was. The monster remained unperturbed and declared that it was useless to scream. Her teacher was already completely burned. As it turned out, the monster was wrong, and the brave guy easily created several ice shields to protect himself from the fireballs. All this happened because the hero sought to protect an innocent girl. The lady was delighted that her teacher was alive, and the monster underestimated the guy, and his fire would melt the ice sheets in a matter of seconds, and then it would be his time to die. Xiao Sun confirmed that the enemy is right. The heroes will not be able to hold out for long, and in this world the monster cannot be defeated. Fearing for the life of the master, the companion was worried, knowing that even if they admitted defeat, they would not let him go. The brave man asked the girl not to worry because he had a plan, but he couldn't do it on his own. He needed help. After explaining his plan, he explained that this was the only way to win, and it was necessary to act immediately. Meanwhile, Xiao Sun came up behind the horse prince and addressed him. She said that she heard the 7 dwarves getting ready to take the drunken Snow White home, and the horse got angry, knowing that these dwarfs had been planning something bad for a long time, and they needed to be dealt with quickly. Now free, Linbao fled to her teacher, preferring to die with him rather than marry a monster. Then Xiao Sun invited the girl to help her teacher in battle, and Linbao explained that she did not know how to fight. Although she was not experienced in combat, it was not difficult for a star of her stature to take on a small acting role. Without hesitation, the hero's companion explained their plan to the girl. At this time, the Frog Prince sat on the floor and listened carefully to everything that was said. The hero, meanwhile, bravely fought the disgusting monster. Unfortunately, the forces of the monster in this world were too great, and the fireball broke through the ice shield, hitting the guy. The exhausted hero received a devastating hit and fell to the ground, remaining motionless. The girl saw how her teacher was defeated and begged to let him go, and the adamant monster was not going to free anyone who tried to deprive him of his beloved because she belongs only to him. At the same time, the lady explained that today was their lucky day, and she wanted the wedding to be wonderful. And the monster could not believe that his beloved was going to marry him. And the girl confessed that the gentleman was strong and powerful, and she likes it. But his current argument scares her. The monster, besotted with love, assured the lady that there was no need to worry, because he could easily turn into a handsome man and demonstrate it now. So not a trace will remain of the ceremony, because the wedding should be like in a fairy tale. Imitating feelings, the girl asked the monster to close his eyes, because he was looking at her like that, and it was scary. The naive monster closed his eyes and said he was ready. The next moment he opened his eyes, only to find something unexpected. The frog prince appeared before his eyes, visibly nervous. Stunned by what he saw, the monster could not believe his eyes and could not understand how his beloved could do such a thing. The embittered Lin Bao ordered him not to even hope, because he could only dream of her kiss. Meanwhile, Xiao Lu began to rise from the floor, and the monster claimed that he was the god of this world. Everything is subject to him, and the girl will be his. And the hero at that moment noticed that earlier the monster said that he created all the rules of this world. But since, then he must understand how this world works, and therefore must know what will happen if you kiss the prince on the toad. A magician who has no limitations in magic and a kiss capable of dispelling any magic came together in a struggle, and it was unknown which would be stronger. Despite the guy's words, the monster continued the attack and went on the attack, and suddenly his body began to shrink. He then turned into a small toad, remaining in his suit. The former monster watched everything that was happening in bewilderment and could not understand how he turned into a toad. But rules are rules, and although he made them, he still must obey them. Now the monster had no protection, and the hero could do with him as he wanted. The toad began to worry, not understanding what awaited her. The embittered heroes watched as the toad awaited its fate. A fight immediately broke out, and the frog was defeated. In an instant, the frog turned into a guy screaming that he wasn't ready, apologizing and begging not to be hit again. As it turned out, it was Xiao Wang who turned into a monster. He had previously been the girl's assistant assigned to her by the company, and she had always trusted him and didn't think he was capable of such a thing. Xiao Lu immediately realized that Xiao Wang served the main villain, and it was he who brought the teddy bear to Lin Bao's room, and the hero wanted to know where he got it. It turned out that this bear cub was sold to a naive guy by some merchant. Previously, Xiao Wang was walking around the city, thinking about why people send letters to idols, and as long as he was with Lin Bao, she did not have to waste time on them. Suddenly someone came up behind the guy, and he said that he smelled envy in him. To this, Xiao Wang replied that this man was crazy, and then the stranger said that he had something that would help him take possession of this idol, and this something would give him the opportunity to invade her dreams, and all the details of the dream would be under his control, and everything that happens in a dream will have an impact on the real world, and thus his dreams will become reality. The guy, not understanding anything, exclaimed and wanted to know who this stranger was and how he knew about his envy. The mysterious man explained that it didn't matter who he was. All that was important was to leave this teddy bear in her bedroom, and then he could invade her dreams, and everything that happened in the dream would affect the real world, and therefore the dreams would become reality. Lin Bao remembered that Xiao Wang said that some fan had given this bear cub with the wish that it would always protect his sleep, so she left it in her bedroom. The guy only did this because he loved the girl, and every time he saw another man next to her, his heart would crack, and Xiao Wang just wanted her love. Angry, the girl shouted that a scoundrel is one who uses vile tricks and is not worthy to utter the word love, and the lady ordered him not to come into her sight again. This word shocked the guy and greatly damaged his self-esteem. A few seconds later, it was as if an earthquake began, and it was not just an earthquake, and this world was collapsing, and apparently because of her words, and her heart was completely broken, and he was still the owner of this world. And if he were the thriller, if they can't escape from the castle, they will never wake up. And then the brave men began to immediately run away from the collapsing castle. They quickly rushed forward to the exit in order to quickly leave the dangerous place. Gradually, they began to wake up in the real world. When they left the castle, it turned out that in real life they also woke up. The brave guy started to wake up Lin Bauer, and she greeted him good morning. Smiling, the hero looked at her and realized that she seemed to be fine, which meant that he seemed to have dealt with this succubus. Suddenly, a lady came in and demanded that Mr. Xiaolu explain what was happening here, and the woman managed to catch the two of them in bed. The guy, feeling incredible tension, was now thinking about how to explain this whole situation to him.